What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
15 SC. Chapter 351 Auto-generated chapter title. Inspire. What is the most important thing for a woman in a man? 352. After the break. After watching everyone leave, Bai Yu stood there, waiting for the two to arrive. To Bai Yu's surprise, since the two brothers in front of them can speak human language, it is better to say that their language is the same as that of the dwarves, which is the voice of the human kingdom. Different from the timid nature of the dwarves, after seeing Bai Yu, the giants did not react too much, instead there was a trace of contempt in their eyes. Human, this is not the place you should come, and you can't save dwarf women, said the slightly fatter man of the two. After hearing this, Bai Yu just smiled and said, huh. Is that right? Originally, the affairs of your two clans are none of my business, but there is no way I can have a warm-hearted and nosy captain. In the distance, a group of Straw Hat pirates retreated towards the dwarf tribe. At this time, Luffy, 970, was running with Lilima on his back, and suddenly sneezed. Maybe I slept without a quilt last night and caught a cold. Luffy thought to himself. What he didn't know was that it was actually Bai Yu talking about him behind his back. It seemed that, you are determined to fight against our giants. Seeing Bai Yu's calm and composed look, the two of the dwarves were already burning with anger. You must know that on this island, their giants can be said to be the kings here, and people from all other tribes have to submit to them. Although the dwarves of the year can indeed be on an equal footing with them, it was already many years ago. Things are up. So what? I really want to know what you can do to me. Bai Yu's eyes have changed at this time, and the black pupils that were originally pitch black have now turned into Mangekyo's blood-round eyes. The eyes are, obviously, the higher brothers have just suffered a loss, so they are still a little afraid of the pair of pupils who had just let themselves fall into the illusion, but the next scene also made Bai Yu a little surprised. Because the higher brothers took out a piece of black cloth from behind and covered their eyes. Good guy, this intelligence is really not low, since you know how to cover your eyes. This move was obviously to avoid the illusion created by Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes. Unexpectedly, after only one fight, the two brothers had already discovered Mangekyo's secret. However, this did not affect Chu Feng's actions. After all, Mangekyo's illusion is just one of those abilities. The most powerful thing about Shui Lunyan is that he can spy on the enemy's movements and react before that. In front of them, the higher brothers had already rushed towards Bai Yu, and it seemed that their blindfolds did not affect their movements at all. Bai Yu speculated that they should have other means to detect things. Could it be Roger's ability to listen to all things? Of course, this thought only appeared in Bai Yu's mind for a moment and then disappeared. His two brothers have not reached the level of Roger, so obviously this guess is not valid. And the next battle also made Bai Yu admire the two brothers with admiration. Their cooperation was very good. Although the two attacked from different angles, their tacit understanding was like one person. The two punched Bai Yu from different angles, and the speed was very fast. If it wasn't for Chu Feng's blessing with Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes, they might have been hit in the face of such a stormy attack from the two of them. Seeing that their attack didn't work, the two of them looked at each other as well, and then a miraculous scene happened. I saw that the tall figures of the two began to change, and the surrounding aura also changed. After a while, the two who were still in human form had turned into two giant wolves. Zone ability fruit person. Seeing the change in front of him, Bai Yu was stunned. He didn't expect these two brothers to be ability people in zone, but this could explain why they were so fast just now. After all, it's a wolf, can that speed be slow? Observation Haki opened, and in the distance, there were a lot of footsteps, probably a lot, which made Bai Yu, who was ready to start seriously, give up the attack. He didn't plan to entangle with these two brothers here. His purpose was to cover the retreat of the large army, but he counted the time and their speed. Now they have retreated a long way. We'll follow. But if you don't teach the two brothers in front of you a lesson, you can't justify it. At the moment, Bai Yu Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes opened again, this time not using illusion, but Susanoo. The huge phantom transformed by Haki turned out, and the gigantic degree was no worse than that of the giants transformed into giants. Seeing that Bai Yu has this ability, the two brothers are also stunned. What is the matter with this huge ability? And that man is obviously wrapped in Haki, since Haki can be developed to this level. At this time, the two of them already had the intention of retreating. Originally, they planned to hold back their opponents and wait for the big army to arrive and take it down in one fell swoop. But now that the big army has not arrived, they will naturally feel fear in the face of this kind of monster. Shandi, what are you doing? It seemed that he felt the change in his younger brother's breath, and his older brother Qingtian also reminded him. As the vanguard of the giant tribe, they can't. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yu shot. The huge phantom thought about the two wolves punching out. The huge force directly smashed a big hole in the ground. Seeing the ground that was hit just now, the two brothers were a little bit nervous. Dumbfounded, what kind of destructive power is this? If he really hit him with this punch, then it is estimated that they have to explain it here today. Seeing that his punch was missed, Bai Yu was not annoyed. After all, these two wolves are known for their speed. If they were really knocked down by his punch, it was really unreasonable. Susanoo flame control. The black flames appeared again, but this time, instead of directly thinking of the two wolves, they turned into a bow and arrow. Bow arrows formed by black flames are wrapped in black flames. Seeing this scene, the higher brothers seemed to have seen some kind of miracle. Their eyes were round and round. They knew that if the arrow was hit, they would not be able to survive even if they were in the form of a werewolf. Now I can only see if I can use my speed to avoid this attack. However, Bai Yu's Mangekyo Blood Wheel Eye is no joke. The reason why he uses this move is that it is a good way to restrain speed-type enemies like the two of them. The flavor arrow came out of his hand, but the speed of the seemingly huge arrow was extremely amazing. With the blessing of Shui Lunyan, the hit rate of this arrow was extremely high, because Bai Yu locked all the possible directions of Qingtian's evasion. With a loud boom sound, the one of the two wolves fell to the ground with regret. The terrifying black flame was still burning Qingtian's fur, and black-brown blood flowed outwards. After seeing that he succeeded, Bai Yu didn't stay there anymore. After all, the large army had already arrived. If he didn't leave, he might not be able to leave later. Thank you for reading Chapter 352, Auto-Generated Chapter Title. Safe enjoy. How to get a job with free visa sponsorship. Get a job with free visa sponsorship. What is your dream job? 353. Another Brooke. What is that? The giant's reinforcements also saw Bai Yu's Susanoo not far away. There seems to be a person standing on it, human. Seeing this spectacle, everyone was amazed. But now is not the time for them to discuss this. Just now they have felt that the higher brothers have transformed into warrior wolves. They still know the higher brothers very well, and they are very strong. If they didn't encounter a strong enemy, they would not use the fruit ability. And the human on the giant Manos Grande just now was probably the culprit behind the attack on the giants. Speed up, you have to take him down, said an unusually strong-looking man in the lead. The man was dressed in tiger skin and his hair looked like a Super Saiyan, standing straight up. However, by the time a few people arrived, Bai Yu had long since disappeared, leaving only the two brothers and the scene of being burned by black flames. What's the matter? What about the human I just saw? Run. Qingtian's eyes were full of killing intent at this time, and the regret in his hand was dying. Burned by the black flames, even those with the zone fruit ability, whose vitality is different from ordinary people, can't bear it. Not to mention the black flame Amaterasu blessed by Susanoo. Hunan also obviously felt something was wrong. What's the matter? Hunan said curiously when he came to the two brothers. And Bai Yu, who retreated naturally, wouldn't care about these things. After all, he didn't like the giants. He kidnapped a woman in broad daylight. Is that something a good person can do? Oh no, they are giants, too. Can't be counted. However, Bai Yu walked and found that he seemed to have lost his way. This road did not seem to be the road he passed before, because Renekton led the way before, so he did not make a mark. The forest here is too dense and tall. Know those who are familiar with the terrain here are indeed very easy to get lost. Oops, where is this place? Since I can get lost, Bai Yu, I rely on it. Bai Yu couldn't help thinking of a person, Zoro. If Zoro is here, I'm afraid he won't be able to get out of this forest in his life. Bai Yu looked at the dark night. Either just rest here tonight, it should be easier to find a way during the day. Thinking like this, Bai Yu directly found a high number, and then sat up. In the middle of the night, a sound made Bai Yu alert, and when he looked down, a green flame was shining in the forest. Just when Bai Yu wanted to take a closer look at what this thing was, the fire suddenly looked in Bai Yu's direction. When he turned his head, the front of the flame, since it looked like a terrifying skeleton, was ferocious and terrifying. This Bai Yurang's first reaction was the night demon that the dwarves said before. But like this, why does it sound like Brooke? Could it be that Brooke didn't look at the boat, ran out to play, and played tricks here? Thinking of this, Bai Yu jumped down the tree. Seeing the man in front of him suddenly jumping down, the skull was startled and quickly stepped back. This is the first time he has encountered such a situation. He has been on this island for decades, and no race has ever seen that he is not afraid, and even deliberately came to him. Grumbling. The blue skeleton made an odd sound. The voice Bai Yu couldn't understand, but he knew that it seemed to be intimidating him. Aren't you the daredevil they said? Bai Yu came to the blue skull and looked up and down this terrifying-looking skull. Of course, it may seem to others that this thing is really terrifying. After all, the skull can fly, and it is still braving the blue light in this dark night. Who is not afraid to see it? But Bai Yu is different. Who made their pirate group really have such a strange creature? Brooke also likes to dangle at night. He is now thinking, whether skeletons have strange hobbies. I like to go out for a walk at night. However, seeing the skeleton head ignored him, and instead made a grunting sound on the spot. Bai Yu couldn't help it a little bit. Didn't he just ignore him? Immediately, he slapped the skull directly in the face. I ask you, what is your attitude? The few slaps he suddenly got started made the blue skull head bewildered. It has lived on this giant island for so many years. Where has it encountered such grievances? You must know that he is the king of the night. But what happened to this guy in front of him? At the moment, its first reaction was to run, and it couldn't afford to offend the monster in front of it. But would Bai Yu just let it go? He had already lost his way in this dark night, finally fell asleep, and was woken up by this thing. It was obviously impossible to just let it go. Immediately, Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes opened, and then a black flame appeared out of thin air around the blue skull. This sudden black flame made Skull feel very scared. Although it was the first time it had seen this kind of black flame, it felt the death aura very clearly. It knew that as long as it took a step forward, this black flame, I'm afraid it will kill it. Run, then run. Why didn't you run? I thought you were not afraid of fire with a skull. 970. This point is actually inspired by Bai Yu from Brooke, because Brooke is also afraid of his black flames, so Bai Yu speculates that the blue skull in front of him may also be afraid of this thing. Seeing the reaction of the skull at this time, Bai Yu knew that he was right, this thing is really afraid of black flames. Bai Yu walked slowly to the head of the skull and slapped him again. What? You're scared? Didn't you run very fast before? Then there were 2 slaps. Oh, stop hitting, don't hit eldest brother, I know I'm wrong. This sudden change made Bai Yu jump to the present moment. Damn it, a talking skull. Bai Yu never expected it. Originally he thought this thing could not speak, but now he seems to be wrong, and the voice is still a woman's voice, and it's very appealing, and that's the most important thing. But thinking that the one on their ship can speak, and seems to like to make a strange laugh. Since you can talk, it's easy to handle. Bai Yu showed an intriguing evil smile on his face. Skull shivered when he saw the expression on Bai Yu's face. Now tell me, what kind of thing are you? Are you the night demon they said, and do you know where I am now, and how should I return to the dwarf tribe? Chapter 353 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 354. The true appearance of Night Demon. When Bai Yu suddenly asked so many questions, the blue skull was stunned, and then said, Brother, you suddenly asked so many questions, and I didn't know how to answer you for a while. Bai Yu's eyes were wrong at this time, full of murderous intent. The blue skull and Bai Yu looked at each other, and the good guy read it himself. Alright. Okay, first question to start, I'm a pixie. Second question, I am the night demon in their mouths, but I haven't done anything that hurts the world. As for why I am a night demon, I don't know. Anyway, you only need to know that I am a good elf. Already. The third problem, and the fourth problem, we can solve together, that is, I can take you back to the dwarf tribe now, don't worry, I have lived on this island for decades, and I am hot on this road. After saying this, Bai Yu clearly felt that the elf in front of him just made a proud expression. Then hurry up, there are too many mosquitoes here. Bai Yu thought for a while and said, he is a little hungry now, although there are fairy beans on him, but the fairy beans are not as delicious as big fish and meat, and now he has started I miss dwarf food. On the other hand, the large army has returned to the dwarf tribe, and it will be waiting for Lilim to go to the main hall of the female chief. In the hall, the lights were bright, and the female chief was pacing back and forth uneasy at this time. Straw Hat Crew and Renekton have been out for a day, and if they haven't come back by this time, I'm afraid their chests are too small. Just as it seemed, the guards outside announced that Renekton and Straw Hat Crew had returned. Hearing this news, the female chief immediately collapsed from the throne. At this time, she still has the posture of a queen. She is now a mother who lost her daughter and found it again. Under the guidance of the guards, several people walked out of the hall, and by this time Renekton and Straw Hat Crew had arrived. After seeing the chief, Renekton took the lead in saluting. Leader Lei, get up quickly. After saying this, the female chief came to Luffy's side, and Luffy put Lirim down on her body with interest. Lilim is still in a coma at this time, but Chopper has seen it just now, there is no major problem, it should be injected with a tranquilizer or something, and now she is in a coma, just need a proper rest and it is prepared medicine can answer. After hearing that her daughter was all right, the female chief was relieved, but the next second he realized that Straw Hat Crew was missing someone. Because Bai Yu is very special among this group of people, after all, he is like that man. Why didn't your vice captain come back? The female chief asked suspiciously. And Luffy said calmly at this time, it's late, it's alright, Bai Yu gave us a break, it's probably on the way back. But except for Luffy's accident, everyone else was very worried at this time. After all, it had been a while since they came out, and during this period, they deliberately waited for Bai Yu on the road, but they didn't see it. Robin even wanted to go back to Bai Yu over and over again, but the forest at night was too dark, and there was a possibility of encountering the so-called night demon that the dwarves said at any time. Under the people's best efforts to stop it, Robin was able to do it. Did not go. Seeing to see through Robin's concerns, Nami came to Robin and patted Robin on the shoulder and said, don't worry, Bai Yu will be fine, his strength is so strong, the giants can't do anything to him. Hearing this, Robin relaxed a little bit. Yes, he really cares about it. Who is Bai Yu? He is a character of the Hard Steel Marine 5 Elders. Although these giants are strengthened, there is still a gap compared to the 5 Elders. Bar. Everyone, the distinguished guests should be tired, let's go to rest first, we have prepared a good accommodation for you, I hope you are satisfied. The female chief looked at the crowd and said at this time. She really did not expect that since these people can really save her daughter, it is the giant clan. The strongest tribe on this island is also the tribe that has been fighting with them for hundreds of years. She is still very strong for the giant clan. Understand? It was only after hearing that Bai Yu stayed behind to protect them, but she actually forgot it. It was precisely because she knew the strength of the giant clan that she knew even more how powerful an enemy would be in the face of one person. It's just that Bai Yu is much stronger than she thought. After everyone said goodbye to the female chief, they walked out of the hall, but a figure made the female chief stunned. That back looks like, is it my illusion? The female chief calmed her mind, and then the guard pointed Lilim to the bedroom to rest. At this time, Bai Yu was on his way with the blue skull. Are you asking me? How come I feel like we are still in circles now? Do you know the way? Bai Yu will be very puzzled. He and this blue skull have been wandering around here for a long time. He didn't see the way back, which made Bai Yu angry, and immediately he felt that this thing was lying to himself. It's weird, I remember that it was the right way to go to the dwarves. How could this be? The blue skull patted his big head stupidly. Of course, he used the blue hand beside him. Light phantom. Bai Yu was speechless when he saw the expression of the blue skull. Good guy, isn't this dude also a road idiot? And like Zoro, he is a top-level road idiot, and he is the kind of road idiot he doesn't know yet. At this time, Bai Yu can already conclude that this skull is a real road idiot. He immediately found a tree and sat down. He was a little tired from walking. For 2 hours, he was leading the way by this blue skull. Down, wandering back and forth in place for a long time. Seeing Bai Yu's expression, the blue skull slowly floated in front of Bai Yu and said, "Brother, give me another chance. I knew Zhao's just remembered it wrong. This time I will definitely take you out, how about it?" And Bai Yu doesn't want to talk to her anymore. She doesn't want to talk to her anymore. This Luji really left him speechless. Blue Skull was also helpless after seeing Bai Yu lying motionless on the tree and ignoring her. In fact, it has been many years since I came to her island, and this is the first time to communicate with other creatures, and Bai Yu is the first. She is also the first not to be afraid of her. Here, whether it is a dwarf, an animal or a giant, any creature of any race, as long as you see her, the first reaction must be to run away, so she has been wandering in the forest for so many years, and over time she has begun to slow down. The slow character has become withdrawn, and at night, it will deliberately turn into a skeleton to scare the passing creatures. Over time, the legend of the night demon spread among this group of people. Chapter 354, Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 355. Strange things. After Bai Yu fell asleep, the blue skull changed, and the original terrifying appearance disappeared, replaced by a cute little elf, fluttering his little wings, and his big watery eyes looked at Bai Yu, who was asleep at this time. He is very curious about Bai Yu now. The man in front of him is not afraid of her in the state she was in just now, and he takes the initiative to talk to her. This is the first time. Who the hell are you? And your breath is different from that of ordinary humans. The elf thought in her mind, of course she wouldn't ask Bai Yu now. After all, Bai Yu was rough with her just now. To be honest, although she is curious about Bai Yu now, she is more afraid. He really couldn't figure out Bai Yu. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to get out just now. He would fall asleep when he said that, which is too fast. She's so beautiful, her long eyelashes, and her face are almost catching up with me. The elf looked at Bai Yu quietly and said. After some observation, she changed back to the appearance of a skull. After all, she would not reveal her true face in front of outsiders. Or the blue skull is more convenient. So unconsciously, the blue skull fell asleep on Bai Yu's stomach. The first ray of sunshine in the morning shines in the forest, and Bai Yu wakes up from his 970s sleep. He has not seen the sunrise for a long time. It is really unique to watch the sunrise from such a tall tree. Flavor. Rising up, Bai Yu suddenly felt something pressing down on his stomach, which was heavy. Looking down, good guy, since the blue skull fell asleep on him. That's okay, Bai Yu got up straight away and flew out the blue skull by himself. This sudden change also awakened the skull. Oops. Trying to control and stabilize his body, the skull stared straight at Bai Yu, as if he was silently protesting what Bai Yu had done just now. Why are you looking at me? Bai Yu said angrily. He was tossed with the skull for several hours last night. He originally thought he could go back last night, but now it's better, and he is still in the forest. Now that the sky is bright and the light is much better, Bai Yu will set off, using his observation Hawkeye to slowly, little by little, search for the traces left by everyone yesterday. It is indeed more convenient during the day than at night, and the vision is very wide. Soon, Bai Yu discovered Robin's breath. There is no way BCAA, Robin likes to use perfume, of course, he gives things, so Bai Yu naturally the smell is very clear. Walking slowly along the scent of the remaining perfume, Bai Yu soon found the way he came from last night. And at this time the blue skull is still following him. Hey, why are you still following me? Bai Yu said angrily, turning his head to the blue skeleton. He actually didn't have a good impression of this skull, so the tone of his speech was also very strict. I want to go with you. The blue skull stammered. Bai Yu looked at her again, and didn't say much, but the pace of his feet couldn't help speeding up a bit. Seeing that the man in front of him did not reject him, Skullhead was in a good mood at this time. By the way, what's your name? My name is Wendini, what about you? Wendini's little head looked at Bai Yu and said. At this time, she no longer looks like a terrifying skeleton. Although she still looks like a skeleton, she looks like a kind skeleton. Seeing that Bai Yu didn't reply to her, she wasn't angry. Anyway, she would know for sure in the future, and then she just had to find a way to make herself stay. She is still very confident in her own charm. In the dwarf tribe, Robin has not slept all night, she has been waiting for Bai Yu all night. One night passed, and since Bai Yu hadn't come back, she was very worried now, and even started to think wildly. After packing up her salute, she decided to go to the place where she was yesterday to find Bai Yu. It doesn't matter if she breaks into the giant tribe again. I don't know when it started, Bai Yu seems to have become a man she can't put down. Walking out of the room, the Straw Hat Crew people were already waiting outside the house. Seeing everyone getting ready to go, Robin already knew what was going on. Let's go together, we're not going to leave our lovely co-captain and Mary's historian ignoring the kiss. It was Nami who was talking, and Luffy would be nibbling on a thigh he got out of nowhere. Hey, before the war, you can't get enough to eat. Luffy said with a smile, seeming to sense everyone's attention. Although he is usually heartless, he always puts the safety of the crew first. Just when everyone was getting ready, a guard suddenly ran over. This guard they all knew, it should be the female chief's royal guard, and the previous reception was also him. VIPs, your partner is back, but he seems to be carrying something strange. What? Strange things. Luffy and everyone looked at each other at this time, not knowing what the guard was talking about. After a while, Bai Yu had already appeared in front of everyone. Haha, you got up so early, where are you going? Bai Yu looked at the crowd curiously, and everyone was ready to go. When Robin saw Bai Yu for the first time, he immediately jumped up. Bai Yu, where have you been all night? We are so worried about you. Seeing Robin's appearance, Bai Yu patted Robin's head and said, you may not believe it, I got lost last night. When Bai Yu said it, everyone was stunned, but they knew that Bai Yu was not Zoro, not Hawkeye, but it is not surprising to think about it. After all, the forest at night is indeed easy to lose direction, and they came back under Renekton, otherwise they might not have come back last night. Said Cao Cao. Cao Cao arrived. At this time, Renekton also came from a distance, and he put on his armor again, but when he saw Bai Yu coming back, he was also stunned for a moment. Why is the good guy back? Renekton was a little surprised at this time. He was very aware of the strength of the giant higher brothers, but he didn't expect Bai Yu to come back safe and sound. In the morning, when Straw Hat Crew was going to rescue the giants, he was already ready. After all, Bai Yu was left behind for them, and the dwarves have always reciprocated. Brooke, why are you here? Didn't you say you were on the boat to watch the boat? Usopp also saw the blue skull behind Bai Yu at a glance. Although the color was different, it was exactly the same as Brooke, after all it's all skulls. Chapter 355 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 356. Dwarf Manufacturing Workshop. Hearing what Usopp said, Straw Hat Crew also turned around and saw the skull hiding behind Bai Yu. Why are you in this shape? What about your body, Brooke? Sanji and the others are all here. Nami looked at Wendini curiously and said. Obviously they all thought that the skull in front of them was really Brooke, so they said that. Are you talking to me? Wendini said carefully. After all, for her, the people in front of her were all strangers. When she spoke, everyone was stunned, as if petrified. After a while, Robin was the first to come to his senses. You're not Brooke, this world is really amazing, since there are two people who look like skulls. Robin also got up from Bai Yu's arms and said. My god, it's not really Brooke, you look at the light next to her, Brooke isn't blue, Usopp would say. But suddenly a skeleton man like Brooke appeared, and they couldn't accept it for a while, but since they came back with Bai Yu, they must be familiar with Bai Yu. Hey, don't look at me like this, I don't know her well. After saying this, Bai Yu walked directly into the house where Robin lived. Is there anything to eat? I'm going to starve to death. I didn't eat anything all night, so I ate 2 fairy beans. The taste of fairy beans is really not good. Hearing Bai Yu say this, Robin also gave up exploring this blue skull and took out the food from the kitchen. What's your name? Why are you like a skeleton head? Jien, yes, I told you that there is a skeleton head that looks very similar to you in our group, but he does that because of the yellow spring fruit. Yes, why do you look like this? Nami is now like a curious baby, asking questions. After all, there is such a thing. They are very surprised. I guess Brooke will be very happy when he sees it. This is not did you find a similar one? Ah, what I look like is actually created by myself. I didn't look like this. After speaking, Wendini changed her body directly and turned into her previous elf appearance. Her change made Nami even more curious. Wow, elf, are you an elf from a fairy tale? And Bai Yu, who was eating food at this time, was also surprised. You must know that although Wendini had turned into this look last night, Bai Yu had never seen it, and this was the first time Bai Yu had seen this look. Wendini. Hey, this is what I really look like. The previous one was actually meant to scare people. After all, I also want to survive. Wendini said with a smile. The reason why she showed her true appearance in front of these people was actually because these people were Bai Yu's partners, and in her opinion, Bai Yu was not a bad person, so naturally his companions couldn't be bad either. At this time, Wendini flapped his wings and flew back and forth in the air, very happy. This was the first time he appeared in the public eye with this appearance. You must know that since she came to this island, she has almost never used this look. After all, in her opinion, this island is not very peaceful, and only by disguising herself can she live well. Where are you from? You shouldn't be an aborigines here. Nami is still carrying out her 100,000 Ys. At this time, Renekton also walked in. He was going to rescue Bai Yu with everyone. Now that's all right, Bai Yu came back directly, and he was relieved. Now he can watch it with peace of mind. Watching his baby F*K his granddaughter. But just in case, he still went to Chopper. After all, there is only Chopper here as a doctor, and when I watched Chopper treat mandala flower poison before, it was as simple as that. In Renekton's mind, Chopper was already a miracle doctor. Although Chopper is also looking at this little elf, he still puts the first priority on saving people. Although he did check Lilim last night, there is no major problem, so he still needs to take a look. In one morning, Wendini has been very familiar with everyone. Its favorite person is Nami besides Bai Yu. After all, Nami likes her very much and behaves very close to her. In the end, what he wants is that since he can control the weather, this surprised Wendini, since humans can control the weather. On the other hand, Bai Yu didn't say a word to Wendini all morning. After all, he was treated by this little troublemaker for several hours last night. The female chief also received a notification from the guards. She was very happy after learning that Bai Yu had returned safely. After all, Bai Yu was in deep danger for her daughter's sake, so condolences must be indispensable. For flowers 00. Respected guests, thanks for you, I will return to my daughter. If I don't have you, I'm afraid I will never see my daughter again. Said the female chief. She put down her scepter and took off her crown, and then thought the crowd made a kneeling posture. Fortunately, Franky found out in time to stop it. Lord Chief, we can't afford your worship, Lilim is also our friend, do we still need to write to save our friend? Luffy was speaking. In fact, he had long regarded Lilim as their friends, since the first time Lilim pleaded for them in front of the female chieftain. Seeing that she was blocked, the female chief said, if this is the case, then our dwarves will definitely not entertain friends. As a reward, I can ask the most elite craftsmen in our dwarves to make a piece of armor for everyone. Point 0. When the female chief said this, the crew actually didn't feel it, because they felt that they didn't really need the so-called armor, but Bai Yu would be happy, he knew the skills of these dwarves, what they made but it must be superb. Then thank the chief first. Bai Yu stood up and responded. And the crew were all looking at Bai Yu at this time. Of course, Bai Yu must have a reason for doing so, so the crew doesn't need to say much. In the afternoon, the female chief brought everyone to the manufacturing factory. Walking into the factory, everyone's first reaction was that this place is really too big, and it's full of craftsmen at work, and the weapons, armor, and some daily necessities on display look very delicate, more exquisite than the ones on their ships. But more refined. Nami's eyes lit up for the first time. Before she came, she never thought that the dwarves had this kind of craftsmanship. If these things were sold, they would be valuable treasures. My dear guests, this is the most elite production factory of our dwarf tribe. It covers almost all the weapons and armors that can be made. You just need to communicate with them. After finishing speaking, the female chief waved her hand, and the guards understood, thinking about walking inside the factory. 0. Chapter 356 Auto-generated chapter title. 357. Invasion of the Giants. Soon, an old man came out behind the guards, and was very puzzled when he saw the female chief brought a group of people over. You must know that their place is a tribal powerhouse. Generally, only full-time staff and female chiefs can enter, but these people in front of them are obviously not from their race. Of course, even if he was unhappy, he didn't say it. After all, it was brought by the female chief, so there must be a reason. In this tribe, the chief is the sky, and the order of the chief cannot be disobeyed. This is the tradition of the dwarf tribe since ancient times. Dear Lady Chief, you can come and make our factory really flourish. Ah, the leader of Igri can really talk. Let me introduce to you here. These are the honored guests of our tribe and the benefactors who helped us treat the mandala flower poison. Therefore, I, the dwarves of the 970s, promise to be they forge their own armor. Hearing what the female chief said, Igri re-examined the few people in front of him in disbelief. He did know that someone was treating mandala flower poison for the tribe, and his son was also a part of the cure, but because of his work, he would not pay too much attention to these things, so when he learned about this after that, I didn't do much research. But today, when I learned from the female chief that this was done by the people in front of me, I was extremely surprised. These people are obviously not dwarves, but rather humans, and a few of them will come to help the dwarf tribe. It's time to thank everyone. Then I'll leave it to you to communicate with them. After saying this, the female chief left. After all, as a chief of a family, she still has a lot of things to deal with every day. In addition to the fact that these manufacturing process issues, she must not know as much as Edgar, and it doesn't make much sense here. After saying goodbye to the female chief, Igri came back again. He brought everyone into his office area, which is different from other office areas. There are no desks and documents, but there is just a huge stove and many tools for manufacturing. Rather than saying that this is Igri's office, it is better to say that this is his private refining workshop. And the weapons that pass through Igri's hands are undoubtedly the best of the best, and he is also the best craftsman in this tribe. The next time is to discuss the details with you. But to his surprise, except for Bai Yu, no one else seemed to have this idea, and Nami suggested that he only need to take some weapons or armor made by the old man himself. After all, Nami has seen that these things are very valuable. If they are shipped outside, they will definitely sell for a good price. As for Bai Yu, he directly took out a piece of black iron from his own space. This piece of black iron is very special, after all, it must be a high-quality product produced by the system. When Bai Yu got it before, that is, when he defeated the Five Elders mustache, he just didn't know how to use it when he got it. After all, it was only a piece of iron, and it was not small. When Igra saw this piece of black iron for the first time, his eyes gleamed. To be honest, he has worked in the workshop of the dwarf tribe for so many years. In fact, his forging level has reached the peak, but he has never been satisfied with a weapon. The reason is actually very simple, that is, the dwarves are not that good. Material. The quality of an item is naturally closely related to its own raw materials. The black iron that the man in front of him took out was unusual at first glance, it must be the best of the best. This made the old man couldn't help but want to touch it. Unexpectedly, as soon as he got started, a biting cold air slowly spread from the black iron into Egli's body. There was even a blood hole on his finger. This Zontai is really the best of the best. Are you really willing to hand him over to me? Igri looked at Bai Yu with serious eyes. He has always been very strict with regards to forging. As long as he mentions these things, the old man becomes serious all of a sudden. It is precisely because of this kind of concentration that he can come out on top in this place where dwarf craftsmen are born in large numbers. Apart from you, I can't think of anyone else who is worthy of forging this black iron for me. Bai Yu, his eyes were also firm at this time. Hearing Bai Yu's words, the originally serious Egli couldn't help but smile. In his opinion, this is the greatest compliment to him. If such black iron can be forged by his hands, it is also the glory of his life. Okay, since you have said so, then I must give you a satisfactory explanation. The next time is for Bai Yu and Igri to talk about the details of weapons. And Zoro also looked at Bai Yu's piece of black iron. To be honest, he was a little discouraged, but these three knives of his own are also famous knives. To be honest, he didn't actually think that the old man could use this piece of black iron to create a better weapon than the three knives in his hand. It's been another 2 hours, and only Robin and Vindini are left here. For others, it's too hot here, it's not a place for people to stay, and if Robin hadn't waited for Bai Yu, she would have left long ago. As for Wendini, it's because of her unique constitution feel the heat. Okay, then it's according to your opinion, but the construction period of this weapon may be a little long. At this time, Igra walked out with Bai Yu from the inside with a smile, and it could be seen that the two were talking very speculatively. That's work. After saying that, Bai Yu took Robin's hand and walked out of the workshop. Is it all done? Robin said. Hey, it's over, but we may have to stay in the dwarves for a while longer. Bai Yu looked into the distance and said. Just then, suddenly the alarm outside was sounded. The alarm of 0.0 directly made the other dwarves who were still working outside the stalls nervous. As an outsider, Bai Yu naturally didn't know what was going on, so he pulled a dwarf and asked. What happened? Why are you so panicked? The dwarf naturally knew Bai Yu. VIP, this is our clan's guard alarm, which normally doesn't sound, only when foreign clans invade. Hearing what the dwarf said, Bai Yu seemed to have realized something, and he didn't even need to think about it. I'm afraid it was someone from the giant clan. It seems that the wolf I dealt with last night still has some weight in the giant clan. Thinking like this, Bai Yu and Robin also walked towards the dwarf clan city gate together. Chapter 357 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 358. The Raid Marine. The soldiers in the giant tribe are ready. Although they don't seem to be well equipped, each of them is tall and big, and compared with the dwarves, it is like a world. But at this time, they seem to be a little afraid of the mandala flower in front of the dwarf tribe. After all, this toxin is also very deadly in their clan, although their bodies are much stronger than those of the dwarves. But there is no way to remove toxins without drugs. Limia, you are so bold, since you dare to collude with humans to hurt my clan, said the man standing at the center of the giant clan. The man looks quite young, but according to the situation of the dwarf tribe, being able to become a leader at such a young age is probably the same age as the female chief. Rickham, you kidnapped Lilam first, you deserve the one who hurt you. The female chief will stand in front of the dwarves and confront the giants. Although it seems that the dwarves are much shorter than the giants, the equipment of the dwarves is very good. If there is a real battle, the giants may not be able to get anything cheap, which is why the giants have not attacked for so many years. The reason for the 12 dwarves. Both sides have their own fears. If it wasn't for Bai Yu's injury this time, the giant chief would not choose to invade. After all, as a chief, he must give an account to his tribe, and unfortunately he is not an ordinary soldier. Prestige is not low. The two sides confronted each other on the battlefield. At this moment, a skull suddenly ran into the middle of the battlefield, followed by several people with knives and cigarettes. When he saw that he seemed to have run into a position where he should not be, Zoro looked confused, and then rushed towards the dwarves. This sudden change also shocked the female chief of the dwarves. The man in front of him was clearly a human being, and what was that skeleton-shaped monster? The first reaction of the female chief was that these people were the helpers of the giant clan, and the long-range dwarf archers were already ready, and the bow and arrows would shoot in salvo with just one command. At this time, the commanding hand of the female chief has been raised. Just when she was about to give orders, Chopper and Usopp, who had just arrived at the battlefield, saw several people in front of them. Zoro, Brooke, why are you here? Didn't you come to watch the boat? But before Zoro could talk, the densely packed cannonballs flew over in the sky. The number of cannonballs was obviously huge, and obviously only Marine could do it. After the giants and dwarves saw the dense cannonballs, they also made their own reactions. They did not want to become cannon fodder. As a giant clan, a few people have already talked about giants at this time, in order to block the rain of flying shells, while the dwarf clan uses special shields to form a protective barrier. Luffy and the others, who had just arrived at the battlefield, didn't know what was going on, and suddenly the shells hit their faces. Guomogo, rubber machine gun. The shells that flew towards the dwarves were all shot by Luffy, and the rest were rushed to Zoro to be cut off with a knife. The scouts of the giant clan discovered Marine's trace at this time, and began to report to the giant chieftain. After hearing the scouts' report, the giant chief pointed to the dwarf chief and said, Lemia, I really didn't expect you to collude with Marine. What? Collusion with Marine, and I said you colluded with Marine. Apparently neither clans dealt with Marine. Zoro, is the boat hidden? The first time Nami saw Zoro and the others, she was concerned about the Sunny. After all, there are many treasures that she has hidden on the Sunny. If this is seized by Marine, then she cried to death. Don't worry, we moved the boat before we found them, and it's absolutely safe now that the boat is upright. Hearing Zoro say this, Nami will be relieved. On the battlefield, the two clans had already given up their battles. After all, Marine came, and they had to protect their islands. After a salvo of artillery shells, the Marines began to land on the island, and the five elders were the ones at the head. To everyone's surprise, the mustache, which had been smashed by Bai Yu before, walked among them unharmed. The first time they saw Marine, Luffy and others were already hiding. They didn't want to be discovered like this. After all, Marine's purpose this time is unknown. If they were exposed in advance, I am afraid it would bring harm to the dwarves. Necessary trouble. After all, they are pirates, it is only natural that they are wanted by Marine, but the dwarves are the original inhabitants of this island. People, they have no reason to hurt people on this island. The Marine soldiers were at the front, followed by the three Admiral and Aokiji, and the five elders at the back. When seeing the tribes on both sides, 3 Admiral Aokiji was still surprised when he saw these two species, but the five elders would look like it didn't seem to take it seriously. Looks like the Straw Hat crew isn't here yet, said the bald-glassed five elders, looking around. At this time, the Straw Hat crew had been hiding behind the dwarf tribe, and they didn't want to be discovered by themselves. They had to figure out the purpose of Marine's visit this time. After all, even the five elders are here, so things must not be so simple. What tricks the world government is doing again? Bai Yu and Robin also arrived at the meeting, and of course Wendini was behind him. On the battlefield, the three teams faced off against 970, but it seemed that Marine's strength was obviously stronger than any of them. Get rid of it all, the Longbeard in the five elders said to Aokiji who was standing in front of him. Aokiji was stunned when he heard this, thinking that he heard it wrong, and asked another question immediately. What did you just say? I said, get rid of these two races. Longbeard's tone was serious this time, and he was obviously very unhappy. After confirming that he had not heard the wrong order, Aokiji gave the order himself. And those Marines rushed towards the two tribes directly after receiving the order, and the vice admirals were one by one as if they were beaten with blood. This sudden change was obviously beyond the expectations of the giant chief. He didn't know why these Marines chose to attack them. After all, they had not dealt with Marines for decades, and the last time was 50 years ago. Seeing that Marine was already rushing over, the giant chief was about to communicate with the five elders, but Fujitora had already drawn his saber in front of him. Judging from this posture, he would not give the giant clan chief a chance to speak. Gravity knife. Tiger, the knife in Fujitora's hand was drawn and slashed out, the huge horizontal gravity crushed and destroyed everything in front of him. Chapter 358, Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 359. Cooperation. However, the giant clan chief is obviously not that easy to mess with. After feeling that Marine couldn't communicate, he also ordered the giant clan to prepare for battle. At this time, the dwarf soldiers were a little overwhelmed. After all, they were originally going to deal with the giants. Now it seems that the target of the attack will change. And the giants are also very puzzled. At this time, Xingtian still wanted to avenge his younger brother, and now he came to the giant chief and said, "Chief, isn't our enemy the dwarf tribe, unfortunately he." But before Xingtian could finish his words, the patriarch of the giant clan planned his words. "This is not the time to think about this. Don't you see that Marine is like a mad dog now, although the dwarves are also our enemies, but now is not the time to care about them. If this battle with Marine is lost, I'm afraid our entire tribe is gone." After saying this to Xingtian, the giant clan chief also went directly to the dwarf clan's camp. This also frightened the dwarf soldiers. You must know that the strong body of the chief of the giants is walking towards them step by step, and the sense of oppression is still very strong. Some people want to attack immediately, after all, the giants are the enemy in front of them. But the dwarf chieftain would be uncharacteristically. "Put down the weapon, don't attack." After saying that, he also took a step forward and walked towards the position of the giant clan chief. At present, many of the giants and dwarf soldiers have been engaged in the battle against Marine, and many of them seem to have started to avoid their respective troops in unison. At the rear, the chiefs of the two tribes have already stood together. It looks very strange. After all, 10 minutes ago, they were still facing each other, and it was life and death. "Lemia, I think you and I think the same. It's not a problem between our two clans now. Our common enemy is Marine now. Yes, I think you also know that these Marines are aggressive and attack us for no reason. I am afraid they are planning to clear us. If we don't join forces in this battle, we will be wiped out by Marines in this world." At this time, Aokiji was squatting on the battlefield, and when the two groups of chiefs met, he was discovered, and now it was a move of Ice Age to fight in the direction of the two. The ground was covered with a thick layer of ice, and the ice continued to extend, and the target was exactly where the two chiefs were. Bai Yu in the distance naturally also saw this scene, and now he also confirmed his thoughts. The dwarf clan chief and the giant clan chief really know each other. It seems that they are very familiar with each other. Bai Yu stroked his chin thoughtfully. As early as before, he felt a little familiar at the first sight of the giant clan chief. Now that he thinks about it, although it seems that the races are different, the two chiefs are really a bit similar. No, they are. But this is not the time to think about it, because the front marine has already rushed up, and the three admirals including Xingshang have already entered the battle. The battlefield divided by the Ice Age made the soldiers of the two tribes uncomfortable. This also stems from the climatic problem of this island. There is no winter here, so they have never seen ice, and this cold feeling makes them very different, and even their abilities cannot be used normally. The Ice Age is still spreading. At this time, Ace had already planned to make a move. After all, as long as he made a move, the frozen realm created by the Ice Age would disappear, but that would definitely reveal their position. After all, Marine is not a fool, and there is only one Mera Mera fruit in this world. Seemingly feeling Ace's movements, Bai Yu patted Ace's shoulder and said, "It's not the time yet." After speaking, he continued to stay in the dark. And the chief of the giant clan also joined the battle, and the huge figure directly turned into a giant bear. Since the sharp claws of that hand ripped apart the ice extended from the Aokiji Ice Age. Then he immediately thought of Aokiji and rushed forward. He had already felt it. Among the people who shot at this time, Aokiji was the main force, and the terrifying freezing ability was what both of them feared the most. Will be greatly improved. At this time, the battlefield had already become a battle, and since the giant clan chief and the dwarf clan chief had decided to form an alliance, the two groups of soldiers naturally had only one enemy, and that was Marine. In fact, when the two clansmen started fighting Marine, they already had a tacit understanding, that is, they would not attack the two clansmen. It's just that after receiving the exact order, the cooperation will be more skillful. It seems that it is not the first time that they have cooperated. That tacit understanding seems to come from the blood. This also makes the clansmen of the two tribes feel very strange. After all, they have been hostile forces for so many years, and they have never cooperated once. Disgusting, vermin. I proposed to exterminate this race at the beginning, but you insisted on staying. Now it's all right, they have grown up again. The blonde old man in the Five Elders said, looking at the battlefield in the distance. Ah, they are just like our pets in captivity. Their ancestors were not our opponents back then. Do you think these dolls will be our opponents? It's just an after-dinner entertainment project, said the bearded old man. At this time, the old man with glasses from the Five Elders who was standing in front of him couldn't bear it anymore, and rushed up with a single arrow. During this time, his hands were itchy, and he never had a chance to vent. When he was fighting with the Straw Hat crew before, I suffered a lot from Bai Yu. This was something he hadn't tried for decades. How could his arrogant heart allow such a thing to happen? He wanted to vent his resentment for a long time. This old guy seems to be suffocated. Let him go, let him vent. The Five Elders chatted casually and elegantly. In their opinion, all the races on this island today must disappear from this world. The growth rate of Straw Hat Crew, Nuo Zhao's, is too fast. They can't let Straw Hat Crew come here and learn the secrets left here. After all, only the dead will keep secrets forever. In a blink of an eye, the old man with glasses appeared in front of the giant clan chief, and then slashed at the giant clan chief with a precise knife. This knife is attached to the old man's haki and the power of his dream demon. Now that the knife had slashed into the giant bear's body, blood flowed down his lungs. Rickham. Seeing this scene, the dwarf female chief was stunned. She shouted hard, but she did not have the ability to rescue the giant chief. After all, she was not a combatant. Rickham's bare claw firmly grasped the old man's knife, as if trying to pull it out. This move also surprised the old man with glasses. The remnants of your giants are really hard, just as hard as your dead father. Chapter 359 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 360. Assemble. The Straw Hat Pirates. As soon as this sentence came out, it was obvious that Rickham's eyes changed. Seeing Rickham's shocked expression, the old man with glasses smiled. Why, don't you still know how your dead father died? Rickham was already a little manic at this time, and his eyes changed from their original color to blood red. Anyway, you all have to die today, then I will tell you that your dead father, like you, died on my dream demon. Speaking of which, he is much stronger than you. This claw mark on my body thanks to your dead father. Hearing this, Rickham could no longer restrain the violent bloodline in his body. The hair on his body stood up at this moment, and the sharp claws on his hands were sharper than before. But at this time, he has been penetrated by the dream demon, and the blood is constantly flowing. He knows that his time is probably running out. In the distance, Bai Yu also saw this scene. However, he had just listened to the observation haki, and he had already heard the speech of the old man with glasses. He also understood at the moment that there was a misunderstanding between the dwarves and the giants, and this misunderstanding died when Rickham died. On the father. Bai Yu came to the female chief at this time. The female chief would be a little overwhelmed, and she could only order the soldiers around her to rescue Rickham, but these dwarf soldiers were the opponents of those marine admiral, and they were not close. It's all gone. Do you need me to help 970 you? Bai Yu said, looking at the female chief who was already crying. To be honest, he didn't know why the female chief was crying. Aren't the two tribes enemies? Seeing the female chief at this time, Bai Yu already knew the answer. Let's go, everyone, since Marine is also their enemy, it's easy to handle. Bai Yu said to his comrades behind him. I wanted to do it a long time ago. If Nami kept stopping me, I would have gone. Luffy said with a smile. Don't worry, I will save that one. Bai Yu. He didn't know the name of the giant clan chief, so he immediately rushed out. Fire punch. Huge flames began to sweep across the battlefield. Xingqiang was stunned by this familiar scene. Of course he knew whose ability it was. Ace. Straw Hat Crew was puzzled, and the Marines looked at the direction that the fire fist flew. Sure enough, at this time Straw Hat Crew appeared on the battlefield out of thin air. What? Why are they here? The five elders were taken aback when they saw the people coming. They had just fought the Straw Hat Crew not long ago, and they didn't expect a few of them to be here too. Marshal, a pirate ship is approaching this island in the distance. Said the scout in Marine. What? How can there be other pirates? Aokiji would be very puzzled, and in the next second, he thought of a possibility. Is it the Straw Hat Crew? At this time, Usopp naturally discovered this situation. After all, he had a telescope in his hand. That's the pirate flag of the Jinbei Pirates, as well as the Bardo Club, the Flower Country Violence. There are 6 pirate ships in total. Luffy, our other pirate groups are here. Usopp informed Luffy as soon as he saw this information. At this time, Luffy was very excited. This time Marine brought more troops than the previous ones. Basically, he was already the main force of all Marines, and since he was dispatched in full force, it was to destroy these two tribes. Bai Yu had already come to the old man with glasses, and the moment he saw the person coming, the old man with glasses was obviously a little flustered, and the knife in his hand shook. Then a hand pulled out the dream demon that stabbed Rickham. Cut towards Bai Yu. After the last battle, he was thinking about the man in front of him all the time. It was a shame to him, and it was a shame etched in his heart. But how could someone like him be Bai Yu's opponent, and he was the familiar 8 inner gates? After opening it, he shot out with a single hand, and the distorted air shot directly at the bald head of the glasses. The powerful force that burst into the old man with glasses could only use his dream demon to block his chest to resist this powerful force. BCAA. The boom creates a huge sonic boom in the air. Seeing this scene, Rickham was shocked. He didn't expect that the young man in his 20s had this kind of power, but he had seen the power of the old man with glasses. The knife just pierced through his defense. Obviously the strength is extraordinary. But now seeing Bai Yu's shot, the old man with glasses has nothing but parry. It really doesn't hurt without comparison. He was planning to let the dwarves hand over Bai Yu. Now, it seems that he is really over his head. I didn't expect it. So soon, we meet again. Why haven't you beaten him last time? Bai Yu said, looking at the panting old man in front of him. At this time, the old man's face was flushed red, his blood was surging, and this punch made him feel that his internal organs were shaken. Boy, since you are on this island, this old man really made a miscalculation, but today I will definitely let you go back and forth. Huh, interesting, then let me see your abilities. Bai Yu said, looking at the old man in front of him. But then, as he expected, the old men who had fought before also came up. After all, Bai Yu is not different. If they didn't fight, the old man with glasses would definitely not be able to deal with it. And this time there is no Kong, which is a pity for Bai Yu. Rather than thinking about these few fights, he is more willing to fight with Kong. After all, the old man looked a little more fierce. The cooperation of several people seems to be very tacit, and the patriarch of the giant clan also joined the battle at this time. Although he is injured now, the war blood also makes him more excited, and he is eager to fight. Leave this bald head with glasses to me. Rickham came to Bai Yu and said, after all, he just learned that his father was killed by the glasses old man, so he wanted to avenge himself. No problem, leave the rest, 1, 2, 3, these 3 to me. Bai Yu pointed at the 3 of the 5 elders standing in front of him with his finger. As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yu rushed out. His current state is that the 8 gates are fully open, and that speed is no joke. On the shore of the island, the other pirate ships of Straw Hat crew had already docked. It was getting close, and Luffy saw these people too. At the same time, he cracked his mouth and laughed. Everyone is here, it's lively now. After the first battle in the water capital, everyone left early, but I didn't expect to meet again so soon, and since the members of the 7th Division have all come this time, this is an unprecedented reunion. Straw Hat crew was overjoyed looking at the figures who had landed on the islands one by one. This is their property. Chapter 360, auto-generated chapter title. 361, Out of the Nest. And the most enthusiastic among them is naturally Bartolomeo, who has the ability to block fruit. He was so happy to see Bai Yu and the others. After all, these were his idols. If it weren't for the fact that he still had a group of younger brothers, he would have thought of going to Luffy's boat. It's just a pity that he is a person who values love and righteousness, and if he leads a pirate group, he can also help Lu Bai Yufei and others even more. And the captains of the other squads also went ashore. Trouble, who leaked the rumors, and why are these people here? Aokiji is a little bit furious now, knowing that the manpower and material resources they mobilized this time were enough to raise the island to the ground, but the current variables it has exceeded his expectations. The remnants of the Straw Hat Pirates are all here, and the 2 races on the island will regard them as enemies again. Now that I think about it, it is really too careless. If they knew that the Straw Hat Pirates were here, they would definitely not tell that secret, and they would definitely not be enemies of the giants at this time. After all, in that case, the giants will definitely be on their side, but it is too late to say these, now that the battlefield has opened, and everyone on this island will be their enemies. The humming sound of the huge warship sounded again. This sound was familiar to him. It was the sound of Marine Commander Kong's exclusive warship. There was no mistake. Looks like our reinforcements are here too. Aokiji, who was still a bit decadent at first, relaxed a lot after looking at the giant bear that was approaching in the distance. Inside the giant bear, Kong was watching the situation on the island at this time. Commander, the Revolutionary Army is also here, not far behind us. A soldier from the CPO came to Kong and said. Kong's expression was serious at this time. Originally, after he got the news, he rushed to this island, but what he didn't expect was that since these remnants of the Revolutionary Army also got the news, and they moved so fast. Let's speed up, we have to go ashore as soon as possible to meet them. After saying this, Kong sat back on his reclining chair. Not far behind the giant bear, the ships of the Revolutionary Army were also rapidly approaching the island. It turned out that their initial destination was this giant island. When Long saw the pirate flags of those pirate ships under Luffy, he was very curious. After all, he didn't know his son was also here. Of course, since the Straw Hat crew is here, for their Revolutionary Army, it also increases the odds of winning this operation. Crows danced in the sky, covering the ships. Karas, hurry up, these words I'm not mistaken are Luffy's subordinates, then Luffy must be on this island. Although he had only seen it a week ago, Sabo couldn't wait. Okay, I got it. Callus was speechless. The usually mature and stable chief of staff seemed to become restless when he heard the news from Luffy. On the battlefield, the battle is still going on at this time. Marine moved quickly, and before the pirate ship under the Straw Hat landed on the island, he was ready for battle. This time it was another tough battle for them. The pacifist transformations also came to the battlefield this time, along with their maker Dr. Vegapunk. His purpose this time is very simple, that is, to explore the secrets of the dwarves. He knows the legend of the dwarves on this island of giants. Those who are good at making guys must have their own uniqueness. If he can get some information from them, then the future high-tech facilities of Marine will definitely be great help. In fact, the current pacifist has encountered a bottleneck, and it is definitely impossible to break through in a short time. He needs to find a way to make this human weapon more powerful. His goal is that pacifists can confront the fruit ability head-on, that is his goal and his direction. On Bai Yu's side, he was still facing off against several other 5 elders. In fact, Bai Yu already knew about their strength and ability. Come on together, Bai Yu said to the five elders. Hearing this, the five elders did not act, and only the old man with glasses was fighting at this time, but his opponent was now the chief of the giant clan. Since you don't come, then I'm going to do it. Bai Yu glanced at the five elders contemptuously. He knew that his own strength had already shocked these so-called world government's highest combat power. The ghostly figure moved quickly towards the five elders, and at that speed, even a strong man like the five elders could not see clearly, and it looked very strange. For flowers. What they didn't know was that at this time Bai Yu Mangekyo's blood wheel eyes had been fully activated, and the movements of these few people had been completely captured by him. No matter what they do next, Bai Yu will react until then. Sure enough, after seeing Bai Yu coming, the blonde old man transformed himself into a transformed human form just like the previous battle. Dr. Vegapunk looked at the battlefield of the five elders at this time. After all, he had also participated in the transformation of the body of the blonde old man. Naturally, there is no need to say more about the strength. But what he didn't expect was that the opponent in front of the five elders was a young guy who looked only in his 20s or 30s. A laser shot from the palm of the blonde old man's palm. The laser looked the same as the laser shot by the pacifists, but the power was not trivial, even comparable to the laser shot by Kizaru's sparkling fruit, which also made Bai Yu very much. Unexpectedly, after all, the old man had never used this ability when he fought for the first time. Point 0. This is a good trick. Where did you learn it? Bai Yu said after looking at the giant soldier behind him who was blown away by the laser that he avoided. Seeing that his move did not succeed, the blonde old man was not angry. Anyway, they came prepared today, so naturally they would not be defeated like this. The mustache looked at the blonde old man in front of him, still the same ability as before, strengthened. I saw that the blonde old man who was still very calm, after being touched by the mustache, his body began to change, the originally blonde hair has also turned black, and the whole body was wrapped by hockey. Damn it, how can you use hockeys to transform people? It really gave me a lot of insight. Bai Yu, the blonde old man was also stunned when he saw that at this time. But at this time, it is not suitable for him to be surprised, because the battle is still going on, and every second on the battlefield, people were injured or even killed. But what surprised him the most was why the mustache was still alive. You must know that his previous blow completely destroyed the mustache, and he was also sure that the vital signs of the mustache at that time were very low, basically no may survive. It seems that Marine also has his own cards. Bai Yu thought to himself as he looked at the blonde old man. 0. Chapter 361 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 362. Kamui's power. But for Bai Yu, it doesn't matter what kind of hole card he has, after all, he doesn't believe that there is a better hole card than his system. Sabo will have surpassed the Marine fleet under the ability of the Crow, and will come to the frontal battlefield. But even the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, who had experienced many battles, had to be amazed by the battle in front of him. The scale of this battle is probably tens of thousands of people, giants, dwarves, Marine and Straw Hat crew, and their Revolutionary Army. The pacifists on the battlefield are sabotaging the defensive offensive built by the dwarves. They are fearless as clones of modified people, and they will be fearless even in the face of even the most powerful enemies. This also gave the dwarven soldiers a headache, and countless rains and lasers shot out from the dwarves' defensive offensive. At this time, the female chief was actively commanding her soldiers as a commander. And the giant clan showed that the leader level had already grown his size and started to fight against Marine. The number of Marines is too large, and it will be too difficult to deal with if they don't become giants. The giant clan chief was still fighting with the old man with glasses. Are you at this level? It's far worse than your father. The old man with glasses mocked the giant chief in front of him. With a roar, Rickham at this time was completely mad. This is the strongest mentality of his ability of the fruit, the berserk mode. Every punch that follows will be very powerful. When he first punched the old man with glasses on the blade, the old man with glasses felt that something was wrong, and the force was less powerful than just now. And the blonde old man on Bai Yu's side has completed the final evolution at this time, and his dark hands are attached to hockey. The energy laser was extremely contracted at this time, and it seemed that this blow might be the one that blocked the blonde old man's strongest hockey. However, Bai Yu didn't think about dodging at this time, instead he rushed forward, directly blocking the gun muzzle of the blonde old man's two hands with one fist. This sudden scene made the blonde old man panic for a while. If it was Bai Yu who lost his mind, even Kaido, the strongest creature, couldn't take it with his own body. In his opinion, this Bai Yu was completely over his head. The laser charged with zzzz, boom, burst out in the next second. At the moment of shooting, a strange smile appeared on the face of the blonde old man. Boy, you are dead, go to hell. But this thought only lasted for a moment, and the next second, he was stunned, because the super electronic cannon that he considered the strongest level had disappeared out of thin air. At this time, there seemed to be an extra space crack in front of him, Bai Yuhei, and when the laser penetrated the space crack, it seemed to be absorbed by the terrifying crack. What's going on? How is this possible? How could my strongest blow just disappear out of thin air? The blonde old man was still silent in the scene just now. At this time, Bai Yu's pupils were oozing blood. The Kamui just now also made him consume a lot of strength, but it doesn't matter, because the trump card that was regarded as the blonde old man and the mustache was completely resolved by him. Why, isn't this the trump card you're talking about? It's just vulnerable to me. Bai Yu said arrogantly after wiping the blood from the corner of his eyes. No, no, no. How is it possible? Impossible. No one in this world can do it. No. The blonde old man had lost his mind at this time. He couldn't believe that this trick of his own has never been missed since it was developed. Since it will fail in the hands of a young man today, how can he accept it? At the moment, I am also preparing to build up my strength for the second shot. However, how could Bai Yu let him succeed? Although he can still use Kamui to divert on the second serve, he is already close, so there is no need to do so. In fact, the reason why he let the blonde old man completely release this move just now was to attack his self-confidence, and the best way to defeat the enemy was to defeat his inner defense line. Only in this way would he be completely defeated. Night guy. Boom. It was that bloody steam again, which appeared on Bai Yu's body again, and kicked it out with one kick, directly breaking the two hands of the blonde old man that had been transformed into cannon barrels. The mustache standing behind the blonde old man was even more shocked. He saw the whole process with his own eyes. You all have to die here today. Just when Bai Yu was about to finish off the blonde old man and the mustache in the next second, the fog suddenly filled his side, blocking Bai Yu's vision. And Kong also dared to come at this last moment. Seeing the blonde old man and the mustache who had been frightened, Kong was stunned. He did not expect that since this young man has such great power, he is stronger than all the people he has met before, and his strength has far exceeded the level of the four emperors. Boy, do you know what you are doing now? You are adjusting the authority of a world government. Kong was holding a pipe in his mouth, exhaled a breath of smoke and looked at Bai Yu. Oh, the authority of the world government. I'm sorry, in my case, the world government has no prestige. My appearance is to overthrow the so-called justice of the world government. You are nothing but a running dog in front of the world government, a robber in the cloak of justice. Bai Yu was not stingy with his words, unscrupulously attacking Marine and the world government. Boy, you have to pay the price you deserve. Seeing that my mouth can't fit Bai Yu, Kong is not talking. The ape fruit ability was activated at this moment, and Kong, who originally had strong muscles, still turned into a huge King Kong at this moment. And this time, he transformed more completely than the previous one. The muscles of the whole body are wrapped by Hawkeye, and the huge figure is fully highlighted at this moment. Soon a strange scene appeared, and the 0.0-shaped body of the giant disappeared directly into the fog. Bai Yu is very different. This fog is obviously not Kong's ability, and the four people of the five elders on the battlefield are only the one with the long beard who did not shoot. He has been standing there from the beginning of the battle. Under speculation, Bai Yu knew that it might be the ability to grow a beard. At this time, his Mangekyo blood wheel eye was temporarily unavailable. The consumption of the Kamui just now was too large, and it needed a buffer time. Originally, this foggy skill was nothing to mention in front of Mangekyo Shui Lunyan, but now it has indeed brought him a lot of trouble. This fog is obviously unusual. Since Bai Yu's observation Hawkeye can't spy on the environment in the fog, and he can't perceive the things around him at all, the fog seems to be gradually depriving him of his five senses, which weakens his perception a little bit. Chapter 362 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 363. Bai Yu's terrorist power. And Kong, who had just disappeared, was nowhere to be seen. Of course, Bai Yu would not be stupid enough to think that Kong just ran away. After all, it has been transformed, so it must be a death battle. It's just that in this fog, Kong's huge figure can be completely covered up. In the next second, a huge fist in the fog suddenly smashed towards Bai Yu's life gate. Fortunately, Bai Yu's instinctive reaction avoided the punch. And now he can clearly feel that his own actions have become sluggish. Sure enough, as the five elders, no one is easy, this fog is too strange, and we must find a way to break through as soon as possible. Bai Yu reminded himself like this in his heart, and his current mind has also received a slight influence. This fog seems to have a hypnosis effect. Seeing that his punch was dodged, the fist that had just appeared disappeared into the mist again. In the following time, there were more and more tentative attacks, but Bai Yu's consciousness became more and more confused. In the end, Bai Yu was knocked down 12 times by that powerful punch. After this punch, Bai Yu let himself fly upside down, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Hee, you are just like that. In this fog, no one can escape, and soon, you will be completely unconscious, and then be ravaged to death by Kong. The voice was Longbeard, and Bai Yu could hear it clearly. He heard his voice, but could not perceive his position. Sure enough, it's the ability to grow a beard. After confirming his thoughts, Bai Yu was not in a hurry. In fact, the punch he just ate was deliberately taken so that he could wake up. The fog had a great impact on him, and it had begun to gradually deprive him of his consciousness, so he had to take such a punch to let him wake up. Wake yourself up. Of course, this punch is risky. After all, Kong's punch in a complete victory state is no joke, but Bai Yu is so confident. He has absolute confidence in his defense. After all, now that the 8th gate is fully open, there's no reason not to live with Kong's attack. For the next time, as before, Kong continued his attack. However, what made him feel a little weird was that this Bai Yu seemed to move quickly after taking a punch from him. This is a situation that has never happened before. He naturally knows the ability of the beard, and also knows what the people in this fog will face. It is not the first time that he and the beard have cooperated, and the pirates who fell under their hands are not counted its number. But no one can last as long as Bai Yu. But for Kong, Bai Yu is just struggling to the death. No one can escape from this fog, as long as the long beard does not remove his ability. In this fog, even those who are regarded as enemies will not be able to escape. Observation hockey doesn't work, that's the scary part of growing a beard. Question mark. Suddenly, Longbeard's eyes changed, because he sensed Bai Yu and seemed to be walking towards him. How could it be that he didn't know where I was? It was estimated that the blind cat met the dead mouse. Longbeard is very different when he perceives Ziyu's movement trajectory, but it is also for a moment, he does not believe that anyone can distinguish the position in his own fantasies. You know, in order to prove how powerful his ability is, he even found the most advanced detection robot, with the most cutting-edge technology, but even that kind of thing came into the fog, unable to perceive his existence, and even more so. Forget about humans. But is Chu Feng a normal human being? He is systematic, and he is the chosen one. And the perception of the long beard is indeed correct, because Chu Feng's target is him, and his Mangekyo blood wheel eye has cooled down at this time, and the temporary blindness has ended. The Mangekyo blood wheel, which was opened again, noticed the long beard at first sight. At this time, the long beard was holding his chest with his hands, watching Kong like a performance, thinking about his fist. As if he and Kong were the two performers, and he was the audience. With the 8 inner gates fully open, Bai Yu's speed was very fast. Just in the gap between Kong's punch, he rushed towards the long beard. The two people, who had a safe distance of several hundred meters, were facing each other in the next second. Bai Yu, who suddenly appeared in front of him, made the long beard jump. What? How did you do that? The long beard at this time was surprised to see Bai Yu's handsome face with that weird smile. Before he could finish his next words, Bai Yu threw a punch. That powerful force distorted the space, and punched the bearded face. The huge impact force made the long beard fly upside down for several hundred meters, and was smashed to the ground like a cannonball. The landing spot happened to be next to Aokiji. Xingshang, who was still fighting with Ace, glanced at him when he saw someone flying over. Originally, he thought it was just a small roll. After all, it was normal for someone to be knocked off the battlefield. But when he saw the person flying over, he was stunned. Isn't that the long beard in the 5 elders, one of the highest forces in the world government, the powerful force behind the marine? But what is going on? Who can have such a powerful force, can do this step, is it? Thinking of this, Aokiji subconsciously looked in the direction of Bai Yu. Sure enough, Bai Yu was also looking in his direction at this time, and Kong was rushing towards Bai Yu at this time. It was another powerful kick from Shi 970, which, like before, carried the terrifying destructive power of Night Guy. The fog disappeared, and at this time there was no negative state that could affect Bai Yu, and he was now in the strongest state. And this kick of his is to end Kong. What surprised him was that since Kong would want to be the same as him, he would use his own hand to take this blow from himself. But before that leg was reached, the terrifying power fluctuations smashed Kong's entire body to the ground. The place where Kong was standing had already formed a deep pit. The attack fell, and Kong, who was as strong as a diamond, was hit by this blow, and he lost his ability to resist. Aokiji, who saw this scene, was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a terrifying combat power. Is this still a human? The battle against him is the strongest combat power of the world government. But in his eyes, one by one is like a doll, being ruthlessly ravaged. At this time, the old man with glasses who was still fighting with Rickham also noticed the battle on Bai Yu's side. Their main force had already been placed. The 4 elders had already injured 3 people, and the only one who was not fatally injured. Only him. It seems that only the plan can be implemented. The old man with glasses narrowed his eyes and looked at the green cow. Chapter 363 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 364. Coercion. The Revolutionary Army at this time had already come to the battlefield to fight, and the main force on their side was killed, wounded, and wounded. The more they fought, the more passive they became. If it goes on like this, they are afraid that they will be wiped out. In that case, even if they can escape, Lord Yimu will not bypass them. At this time, the Green Bull directly used Brooke, who was fighting with him, and flew to the warship to sound the alarm. As soon as the alarm sounded, everyone looked here, and a large screen appeared. There was a woman and dozens of bandits on the screen, and they were being surrounded by Marine. And their guns are full of bullets. A man who looked like Vice Admiral was staring straight ahead, looking at the group of people. These people, Bai Yu and Luffy, naturally knew each other, and they stopped their movements the first time the big screen appeared. Khalida, Dan. On the big screen, Curly Dayton and his little bandit brothers were impressive. At this time, they had already lost their skills and had more or less injuries on their bodies. When Vice Admiral saw that the big screen had taken over, he stood in front of the screen and saluted, and began to introduce what he did. Report to the 5 elders, who have controlled all the residents of East Blue as instructed, as well as this group of bandits. And when Luffy saw Curly Dayton, he thought of rushing to the big screen for the first time. After all, he had never seen such a thing, and he didn't know what the big screen was for, but the people inside were indeed his foster mother. Since these damn it Marines would do such a thing, since they used the entire East Blue as a threat. Bai Yu looked at the old man with glasses standing in front of him, his eyes full of murderous intent. Ha ha ha, I don't think I need to introduce you. You should all know these people. We have made great preparations for this visit. Now, let us go, otherwise, everyone in East Blue will be buried with us. The old man glanced at the battlefield viciously, and then his eyes fell on Bai Yu. On this battlefield, for him, perhaps only Bai Yu is the one he is truly afraid of. As long as Bai Yu agrees, no one else dares to have an opinion. As for Curly Dayton, who was also obtained by the CPO through intelligence collection, he is very close to Luffy, Bai Yu and others, and even Luffy lived with her when he was a child. This is his biggest killer right now, and the best weapon to use to contain Straw Hat Crew. In fact, he didn't plan to use this killer copper in this incident, but the current situation has forced him to make a decision. Several members of the 5 elders have been defeated by Bai Yu, and Kong is the same. The people in front of them are too powerful, they are not opponents at all. But this time, they were not well prepared. After all, they did not expect to meet Straw Hat Crew and Bai Yu again so soon. The latest research results of that old thing of Vegapunk have not been completed, otherwise, Of course, these are just the thoughts of the old man with glasses. How about, let us go, or let the whole East Blue be buried with us, I believe you will make the right choice. At this time, all the people on the battlefield stopped moving, and although the giants and dwarves did not know what happened, these pirates fought the same enemy with them before, and the enemy of the enemy is naturally a friend, so the giant clan also stopped. They don't want to be the enemy of this kind of opponent again. Bai Yu's strength, in his eyes, is already a player who is not at the same level as him. To be an enemy of such a person is simply suicide. He wasn't stupid enough to think his power surpassed Marine, surpassed world government. At this time, Luffy's silver teeth clenched, and a pair of fists clenched tightly. The immediate combat advantage was not easy to come by. Perhaps this time was the best chance for them to destroy Marine and the world government, and the soldiers who fought bravely to kill the enemy were also generous for them. But since Marine has already made plans, it is definitely not just talk. If Marine is really wiped out here, I am afraid that East Blue will not be spared. They are far away at this time, and it is impossible to rush to rescue. After a moment of silence, Bai Yu's murderous eyes looked at the old man with glasses and said, "Okay, I agree with you, I can let you go this time, but if you don't believe what you say." Bai Yu didn't say anything later. But his eyes already told the old man with glasses what the next words were. The old man with glasses was a little flustered when he saw that look. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him would put so much pressure on him after fighting with him a few times. When he is facing this man now, he will have fear in his heart for no reason, that is the most real thought from his heart. But right now, with so many Marines on the battlefield, he naturally wouldn't wipe his face. As a 5 elders, he also had his own dignity and prestige. Don't worry, as long as we leave safely, we will honor our promise. After all, we are Marines who benefit the people. When he said this, the corner of the mouth of the old man with glasses from 5 elders raised an arc, which was proud. The expression on his face, in his opinion, this time they won, these people have given up, they have no way to do anything to them, although this battle is lost, but that is not important. Carry them in for me. 5 elders said to the CP0 officer beside him. Yes, sir. After that, they led their white suit soldiers to slowly lift the seriously injured 5 elders and Kong to the warship. The closer they got, the more they could feel the strength of the man in front of them. That conqueror's haki made the people who entered Bai Yu's realm rush to be very uncomfortable, Nuo Jiaos, and had difficulty breathing. Although Bai Yu at this time has not deliberately opened his conqueror's haki, the sense of oppression is still beyond the lungs that ordinary people can bear. Afterwards, when these soldiers talked about this incident, they all unified Bai Yu to call him a god. They have never encountered such a powerful person, as if they have surpassed the limits of human beings. Those strange scarlet eyes, in their eyes, are the eyes of God, which can spy on people's hearts. At this time, Marine is also busy cleaning the battlefield. They don't want to stay here for a moment. These people are too scary, and the wounded ordinary soldiers are all abandoned. This is what the 5 elders do. In his opinion, those are worthless things, and bringing them back will only waste human and material resources. The Marines who were left on the battlefield wailed, but their warships were already sailing into the distance. Chapter 364 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 365. Forced concession. Really? Just let them go. Robin came to Bai Yu at this time and said softly. Then what else can we do? These Marines are no longer individuals, their hearts have been twisted under the hands of the celestial dragons of the world government, and they have no longer their own opinions. I am afraid they themselves don't know why they were in charge in the first place. Marine. Bai Yu said to Robin. And Robin also leaned on Bai Yu's shoulder at this time. Robin was also involved in this battle. There were traces of bloodline on her arm, which looked like it might have been scratched by something sharp. Go bandage it. Seeing this, Bai Yu said with some distress. And Luffy was already a little broken at this time. He shouted that he would go back to East Blue now, and he would be relieved to see Curly Dayton with his own eyes. After all, these Marines did not believe their words once or twice. Bai Yu looked at the excited Luffy and didn't speak. He knows what Luffy is thinking now. After all, Curly Dayton is the one who has raised him for many years. Maybe in his heart, the status of the dragon is not as important as that of Curly Dayton. After all, the most important stage of childhood was spent by Callie and Dayton together. This is also a good memory of his most beautiful 970. After Luffy vented his emotions and calmed down a little, Bai Yu walked over to Luffy's side, patted Luffy's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, East Blue should be fine. If something happens, your grandfather Garp won't just sit by and watch, and Marine can't take our anger now." On the retreating Marine warship, the East Blue Vice Admiral was still talking to the Five Elders. "Lord Five Elders, what do we do now? Do we need to get rid of them all?" Vice Admiral said, looking at the big screen. "Lock up first." After saying this, the Five Elders cut off the call. Why didn't he want to get rid of these people directly? He already hated Straw Hat Crew so much, he certainly knew that if he got rid of all these people, it would be a big blow to Luffy and Straw Hat Crew. But now he can't, they're not strong enough. Vegapunk's research and development results are not finalized, they still need time. If this is done, then the next Straw Hat Crew will probably directly enter their world government BCAA, and then they will lose more than the gains. And look at the Five Elders and Kong Glasses lying beside them. The old man was seriously helpless. Bai Yu. Bai Yu. The name was chanting in his heart. I hope Vegapunk won't let me down, and I hope his human weapon can have the desired effect. At this time, the old man with glasses no longer knew what to do with Bai Yu, and he and other Five Elders including Kong had already used their whole bodies. To solve the number, now can only rely on high tech. On the battlefield, the giants and dwarves are also clearing the battlefield at this time. After all, this is the island where they live. This battle is still a big blow for them, and the casualties of the two tribes are also very heavy. What is worth sobering is that after this battle, the long-term resentment and misunderstanding between the two races seems to have disappeared. At this time, the giant chief was lying on the ground, and beside him was Chopper. He was stabbed by the Dream Demon when he was fighting the old man with glasses from the Five Elders. Although his Bear Man Fruit ability has a strong recovery ability, that knife also seriously injured him. Relying only on his own recovery ability, I am afraid it takes a long time to heal. That strange knife made his wounds still bleed. Finally, at the request of the dwarf chief, Chopper came to rescue the giant chief. After the two met, the expression on your face was very embarrassing. In the end, Rickham, the chief of the giant clan, was the first to speak. "Sister, I'm sorry, it's my fault for so many years, I apologize to the dwarves for the giants." Chopper, who was still treating Rickham's wounds while sitting beside him, heard these words, his eyes glared like copper bells. My God, what did I hear? Sister, since the chief of the giants is the elder brother of the chief of the dwarves, what's the situation? This news is too hot. Of course, even Chopper at this time was a little ate in his heart. Trigram's psyche has been surging, but it can't show it yet. It's all a misunderstanding. Now that the misunderstanding is resolved, there is no need to continue talking about this. The most important thing for you now is to take care of your injuries first. The dwarf tribe chieftain looked at Rickham and said. She and his brother have not communicated with each other for decades, and all this stemmed from an accident decades ago. It's not good, it's not good. The leader, the old patriarch, was killed. Hearing this news, Rickham, who was only in his 20s, rushed out of the camp. However, the scene in front of him made him extremely painful. The chief, that is, his father, was carried back by the crowd, and the old chief at this time had already died, and his body was full of scars. Obviously, he had had a fierce struggle with people before his death. The wound was obviously wounded by the blade, but there was only one person on this island who could hurt the old chief and use the knife, and that was Roger. Rickham found Limia right away. Where did you hide your wild man? Dad is dead. Limia, who was reading a book in the tribe, heard what her brother said. The hand that was holding the book shook and the book fell to the ground. After rushing out of the room, the father was already lying on the ground. The scar on his body was obviously caused by the blade, but just now she escorted Roger and others away from the island. Why is this happening? Roger, where? Rickham roared furiously. But at this time, the younger sister remained silent. She didn't know what to do. She didn't want to betray Roger, but she couldn't be indifferent to her father's tragic death. In the end, he decided to tell Rickham Roger's location, but unfortunately, when Rickham arrived, he could only see a little shadow of Roger's pirate ship. This matter became a pain in Rickham's heart, and finally discussed in the clan. The two clans' branch house, and the two who became leaders have not had any contact since then. Over the years, the friction and disputes between the giant clan and the dwarf clan continuously. There are many young people who do not know that their ethnic origin is the same. I'm sorry, Roger. Let him bear the blame for so many years. Rickham was very embarrassed at this time. After all, he had never given a good face to his brother-in-law. Let's not mention that heartless man. I just don't know that Limia looks at his brother and can reconcile with him as very important to her, and even more important to the two tribes. Chapter 365 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 366. The past. And Chopper was a little confused when he heard this. Roger, isn't that Ace's father, the previous generation One Piece, is he also related to this island? With this in mind, Chopper finally asked. As the Roger you're talking about, the Roger the first? No. Chopper asked tentatively. After all, there might be people with the same name. The leader of the Roger pirates. Hearing what Chopper said, the two brothers and sisters would look straight at the little elk in front of them. In their opinion, this little elk should not be too old and should not know Roger. How could this be? Do you know Roger? Limia asked excitedly at this time. Although she knew the possibility was very small, she still asked. Of course I know. He is the Pirate King, the greatest pirate leader in history. When Chopper said this, he could see the deep admiration in his eyes. Hearing Chopper say this, Limia seemed to understand something. No wonder he didn't come back. He has already become the Pirate King. It seems that he doesn't like a place like us. Limia seemed to have figured out something, but she was obviously disappointed. Unfortunately, he died a few decades ago under Marine's hands. Although everyone said he surrendered himself, I don't think it's that simple. Chopper said a little to himself. Hearing this shocking news, Limia couldn't sit still any longer. What? Dead? When did it happen? On this island, there is almost no communication with the outside world, so no matter how big things happen outside, they won't all know, so they don't know whether Roger becomes the Pirate King or Roger is finally executed. Tears were rolling in Limia's eyes now. He seemed to find out why Roger didn't keep his promise and didn't come to pick her up. It turned out that he was not a heartless man, but was plotted against by those despicable Marines. Thinking of this, Limia asked again, what about his son, I mean Ace? Limia's eyes were full of anticipation at this time, and of course there was also fear in her anticipation. She was afraid that the answer she heard was bad news. Ah, you know Ace too. Ace is in our Straw Hat Pirates, and you should have met once before, when we went to rescue Lilim together. Chopper would scratch his head. I thought to myself, he ate a big melon today. He now wants to share this matter with his friends as soon as possible. It's him. Limia recalled the picture Joe said, and quickly locked a person. In fact, when she saw Ace for the first time, she felt very familiar, but she didn't say it. Now, through Chopper's mouth, she finally confirmed her guess. That's right, Ace is her son, her and Roger's son. On the battlefield, the cleanup work has been basically completed. To the surprise of those Marines, these people were rescued together with them. Originally, they thought that they were left behind, and it must be a dead end. After all, they were still enemies just now. At this time, Chopper has already exerted his ability, and Katsuyu's power has been developed to a very high level by Chopper at this time, and the effect of splitting has also been achieved. On the battlefield at this time, the wounded are being destroyed by Katsuyu's split body. Help. Although it is slow after all, the effect is still relatively good. At this time, Limia was looking for Ace on the battlefield. She misses this son whom she has not seen for decades. Although Roger is dead, Ace is still alive, and being by his side at this time adds a lot of comfort to her. Ace, is that really you, son? At this time, Ace was still helping Luffy to clean up the battlefield and rescue the wounded. Ace was stunned by this sudden hug. In fact, although the dwarves are called dwarves, they are not short. Compared with ordinary people, they are given ordinary height. This time, Ace, who was hugged, looked confused when he saw the face. He knew the dwarf chief. After all, when they met Lilim before, they had met once. Your Majesty, what do you mean? Ace scratched his head in confusion. Although they did win the battle this time, it shouldn't be like this, and he just called out his son. For flowers oh. It reminded Ace of Daddy Whitebeard. My god, this female chief is not the same type as the father, she likes to recognize her son everywhere. Thinking of this, the black line on Ace's face. What kind of physique does he have? Do you think it's his physique? It's really scary. Ace, I am your biological mother. Ace heard this sentence clearly. My biological mother. My dear, this is the first time for him to come to this island. Why did he suddenly come out with a biological mother? Ace would definitely not believe this, after all, who would believe such a thing? But what Limia said next made Ace a little moved. I know you don't believe me right now, but your father is Roger, and you were named after Roger and you have a birthmark on your ass. Hearing Limia say this, Ace is even more affectionate. He has never told anyone about the birthmark on his butt. Even Luffy doesn't know. After all, he hadn't seen his mother since he was a child, and Roger died when he was very young, so no one told him these things. Are you really my mother? Ace already believed the words of the female chief at this time, but this matter was too big for him, and he still couldn't accept it for a while. What? Are you Ace's mother? Isn't that my half-mother? Luffy stood by Ace's side and listened to the conversation between the two. No matter how dumb he was, he knew what a biological mother meant. At this time, the dwarf chief also glanced at Luffy, who was standing in front of Ace, and smiled. She had a good impression of Luffy. It's God's will, you saved Lilim as your own sister. After I gave birth to you and Lilim, Roger took you away, and I kept Lilim. In the following time, Limia dragged Ace to find a place, and began to slowly talk about the dusty past. And that Ace, who was half-trusted, after listening to Limia's words, has completely believed the woman in front of her, because this woman's words are infinitely powerful, and she has no reason to say such a lie. 0. Chapter 366 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 367. News of the Steel. Luffy was also taken aback when he heard the news. He didn't expect that since the dwarf chief was Ace's biological mother, the news was too shocking. The dragon in the distance walked towards Luffy. Son, this battle was fought perfectly, and it was considered a severe setback to Marine spirit. Seeing the person coming, Luffy, who was still a little stunned at first, will also recover his expression. He is still very optimistic about him as an old man. Although the time between the two of them is very little, the things that Long is doing now, it is a great event and a great cause for the benefit of all mankind. To put it bluntly, Luffy wants to be the pirate king, so that all the pirates can get real freedom and not be oppressed by the world government celestial dragons. In fact, it is similar to the concept of dragons. So he recognized what his father was doing now. This is also why, even though the 987 people spend little time together, he still respects the dragon very much. On the battlefield, many warriors are being healed by Katsuyu's abilities. Those Marines have also been imprisoned. Of course, these people are all under the control of the Revolutionary Army. After all, they are all Marines. They are the hostile forces of the Revolutionary Army. They are also a group of people who have been brainwashed by celestial dragons such as 5 elders. Then they can change their minds and stop working for those ridiculous celestial dragons. Of course, the actions of the 5 elders this time have indeed awakened some people. They want to join the Revolutionary Army to crusade against Marine and world government, but there are also some who want to do it with the Straw Hat Crew. They feel that the Straw Hat Crew is the real Justice Party. For these people, the Straw Hat Crew finally negotiated and made Enel their captain. Let them join the Straw Hat Pirates together, and as for Enel, he becomes their leader. Of course, this was also approved by Enel. After all, there are enough people on the main ship. They need strong people to lead the expansion of their power. This is what Bai Yu meant. Luffy naturally has no objection. And Bai Yu also had his own ideas at this time. This time the 5 elders did too much, since he would take the entire East Blue people as a threat. This has touched his bottom line. It seems that the next step has to be implemented. Bai Yu thought while looking at the sky in the distance. In his mind, the first person that comes to mind is Zephyr, the former headquarter admiral, Marine head coach, and the current Neo-Marine marshal. Maybe it's time to support them. You must know that what the 5 elders have done this time is really too much. This kind of behavior is simply a waste of life. Bai Yu does not believe that there are no normal people in Marine, and there is no one who really has a righteous heart. The rise of Zephyr is sure to turn those people away and abandon the celestial dragons. This is what he thinks now, and his goal now is to assemble a real Marine, a Marine who truly safeguards the interests of civilians, in this era of pirates. There must be order, and of course this order cannot allow celestial dragons to take charge again, and it is time for him to stand up. Ace will come out with the dwarf chief, and Rickham will follow behind him. Rickham has a smile on his face at this time, and the knot with his sister for many years is also untied at this moment. Although the enemy who killed his father ran away today, it was only a matter of time. At night, the unprecedented fire-raising party of the entire giant island began, and before that, the patriarch of the giant clan had one more thing to tell Bai Yu Luffy, which was also before he became the chief of the giant clan, and that was his old man. What his father told him is that there is a huge red stone tablet on this island, and it is only possible for the D family to come to the red stone tablet on the island. Roger before, Luffy now. But now even we don't know where the so-called red stone tablet is. It may be in any corner of the island, or it may have sunk into the sea. Rickham said with some regret. The two in front of him, in his opinion, are their benefactors. Although Bai Yu was injured before, unfortunately, he is now fine under Chopper's treatment, and it was Bai Yu who let him know about him. The real cause of death of the father. It was also because of this that the two brothers and sisters were reconciled. This is very important to them. Although it seems that they are still very young, don't forget that they are in their 70s, and they have not had any intersection in the past 50 years, more of a conflict between two tribes. There has never been more harmony on this island than it is now. Hearing Rickham's words, Luffy was very excited at this time, and Bai Yu was the same. They didn't expect that since the redstone they were looking for would be related to this island, this giant island is really different from what they imagined. The conversation of several people was also heard by Wendini, who was floating beside Bai Yu. When the few of them were discussing where the redstone would appear, Wendini fanned her 4 cute little wings and ran over. Bai Yu was a little unhappy when he saw such a small thing running over. While discussing things, you go and play first. After speaking, he stopped paying attention to Wendini. But Wendini still got to the table. Just when Bai Yu was about to drive it away for the second time. Wendini put his hand in front of him, and then said, Don't drive me away, I may know where the thing you are talking about is. Hearing Wendini's words, several people present were a little stunned. Rickham and Limia didn't even know what this thing in front of them was. But this is not surprising. After all, it is the first time they have seen this kind of creature, like a elf, but they know that this is someone from Straw Hat crew. After all, she has been in the Straw Hat camp before the start of the war. It seems to see the doubts of the two patriarchs. After all, they have lived here for decades without knowing the news. How can the little guy of Straw Hat crew in front of him know? Maybe you haven't seen me in this state, then you can see if you're familiar with my state. After speaking, Wendini changed her body and turned into the blue skull she used to look like. 0.0. This sudden change shocked the chiefs of the two tribes. Of course they have seen this form. Isn't this the night demon that is widely rumored in the tribe, and there are legends and portraits about her in the tribe? Seeing the appearance of the two, Wendini showed a look of pride. Hey, I'm the night demon in your mouth, but I haven't hurt anyone. In fact, every night I go out to wander because it's so hard to find your way here at night. I don't know what to do when I come out. Gone back. Hearing this, Bai Yu realized that, my good guy, this thing is really a road idiot, and he said why he had been in the forest for so long and couldn't find his way back. It turned out that this guy was also lost. Seemingly discovering Bai Yu's strange eyes, Wendini smiled awkwardly at Bai Yu. Chapter 367 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 368. Division of Labor. The two patriarchs also believed her statement after seeing Wendini, who had changed back to her elf appearance. But in retrospect, Yi Mo did not hurt anyone, but the clansmen were frightened when they saw it. Of course, this is also a way for Wendini to protect herself. After all, she is unfamiliar with her island. I did have a stone tablet before. I can't understand the text on it, and I'm not sure if it's the one you said. It's quite hidden, and I discovered it by accident. Wendini said seriously at this time. Then do you know how to get there? Bai Yu said, looking at Wendini at this time. After all, this guy is also a road idiot. Although he has seen it before, he cannot guarantee that he can still find that place now. Zoro is also Liu Kai, so he knows how terrible Liu Kai is. If it's the same level as Zoro's lunatic, it's definitely hopeless. At the moment, he actually had no hope for Wendini, but since he knew that the stone tablet still existed on this island, it was a good thing. After all, they would not leave the island so early. You must know that Bai Yu's weapon to get rid of the 12 craftsmen of the dwarves has not yet been made. They do have to stay here for a while, and they just happen to be looking for this stone tablet. Hey, I really don't remember the specifics, but I can tell you the approximate location. Anyway, we have a lot of people, so we'll just find it slowly. Wendini said playfully, flapping his wings. After saying this, she jumped onto Bai Yu's shoulders. Although Bai Yu was not very good to her, she was still very close to the person who spoke to her for the first time. At least he knew that Bai Yu was not a bad person, but full of justice. Getting the news of the steal is crucial for Straw Hat crew. After all, this is their current goal, and the missing 100-year history may be about to surface. Everyone is looking forward to it. Of course, the most important thing now is to find the red stone tablet as soon as possible. Although Wendini can't understand, but they have Robin. Is there anything she can't understand about this historian? Bai Yu subconsciously glanced at Robin, who was standing in the distance. At this time, Robin was helping Chopper transport the wounded, and she seemed to be quite busy, but when she noticed Bai Yu's gaze, Flower Fruit immediately responded by posing heart shapes with her hands. The other people who saw this scene, they envy what kind of goddess Robin is, but after seeing the object as Bai Yu, they have no complaints. It can only be said that a man and a woman are a good match. Giant Island is very big, and there are all kinds of huge creatures, so the people who go out to find are all strong, cadre level, so even if they encounter huge creatures, they are enough to deal with it. And with Bai Yu are Wendini and Robin. The others were divided into several teams, each teamed up to look for it, and the one who found it was notified by the signal bomb. As for the area, Wendini also planned a piece for everyone. Giant Island is so big that they have been searching for more than 10 days and have not found it. During this period, the Revolutionary Army has all evacuated, and the other pirates of the Straw Hat Pirates have also left one after another. Concerned about the safety of the East Blue crowd and Kali Dayton and others, Luffy also left Zoro, Sanji, Nami and the others ahead of time. After a month of dating, they will come back here to pick up Bai Yu and others. The Straw Hat crew will be left with Bai Yu, Robin, Ace and Chopper. As for Bai Yu and Robin, they are left to wait for the appearance of the historical text and the completion of the weapon, while Ace is because of his mother, and as for Chopper, it is naturally because the mandala flowers on this island have not been dealt with. He hopes that he can do his best to get rid of these toxins completely, although he has to develop a vaccine that can make everyone immune. This is Chopper's goal, and he has to achieve it. Before leaving, Bai Yu also got rid of Luffy and found Zephyr. He doesn't know where Zephyr is now, and he hasn't been in touch since the last time they parted, but he believes in Luffy's ability. After all, his popularity is still good, and he believes that with the resources of the Big Straw Hats, Zephyr's whereabouts can be quickly found. Now he needs to talk to Zephyr about the new marine. On the island, the grievances between the giants and the dwarves for many years have been resolved, and now they seem to be in harmony. It's just that there are still some giant leaders who don't seem to be optimistic about these dwarves, among them Xingtian and Kiti. After all, they had fought against Bai Yu before, and unfortunately they were injured by Bai Yu, but now that Bai Yu has become a guest on this island, how could they accept it? Although Rickham and Rickham have talked about this several times, they were all rejected by Rickham, and even kicked the two out for the last time. Time passed quickly, more than 20 days passed in a blink of an eye. As usual, Bai Yu and the others continued to search for the whereabouts of the steel. After all, they could only search during the day, because at night the forest was a bit too dark, and there was no light at all. Found! I've got it! With a sudden exclamation, Bai Yu made everyone's nerves tense. The source of the sound is Vintini. Bai Yu looked at Wendini, who was really stuck in a place surrounded by dense grass at this time. After everyone came to Wendini's side, they did find a horn. These 987 horns really looked like stone tablets, but the other parts were stepped into the soil. If it wasn't for Wendini's amazing eyesight, no one could really do it. Find. Hey, I just said I've seen it. I didn't expect it to be buried like this. I'll say it's around here. Wendini said with a smile at this time, her face full of pride. But Bai Yu rolled his eyes at Wendini when he saw this scene. You are ashamed to say, are you talking about this place before? The place you circled for us is obviously not here. It's deviated a lot, and we have been looking for it for so long. Bai Yu looked around and pointed for a while, then glanced at Wendini again. He now understands that the lost level of this elf is really comparable to that of Zoro, but fortunately he found it, and his eyes are still good. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Wendini, who was originally happy, was a little sad at this time, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. Seeing that the situation was not good, Bai Yu quickly changed his tune and said, although this is the case, this time it is indeed the stone tablet you found. The merits and demerits are worth it. After speaking, he glanced at Wendini's direction secretly. He really can't see a woman cry, even an elf. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Wendini was very happy, and began to fly back and forth in the sky. Chapter 368 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 369. Ice blade residual snow. At this time, everyone brought tools with them. This kind of thing must be very precious, so it has to be dug out slowly. Soon, with everyone's efforts, the steel appeared. Of course, the next time is left to Robin. After all, other people can't understand these things. Robin looked at the words on the stels. It is written about the history of the island, and what to do with the mandala flower. It is a pity that this piece of stone is not a red stone tablet, but this stone tablet is of great significance to the giants and dwarves, because it records the method that can destroy the mandala flower. The mandala flowers surrounding the two tribes can be eliminated by the blood of the two tribes. This news Robin will tell the two chiefs when he is ready to return to the horde. Bai Yu, who heard the news, was not in a hurry. After all, they still had a lot of time. Although this was not the red stone, nor the one they were looking for, he always felt that he was getting closer and closer to the truth. His goal now is to start building his own strength, let those so-called celestial dragons know how powerful they are, and let them know that the master of this world is about to change. This era will no longer be the era when they celestial dragons can cover the sky with one hand. Ah, isn't it what you want? Wendini also knew the reason after hearing Robin and Bai Yu's conversation. Back in the tribe, Robin told the female chief what he knew. It turned out that the blood of the patriarchs of the two clans could be used to eliminate the mandala flower, and the method was to drop the blood of the two people on the stone tablet. Hearing this news, the female chief was very shocked. It was the mandala flower that had troubled them for so many years. Although the arrival of Straw Hat crew did save them, the mandala flower existed on this island, and it was always a blessing to them. A threat, their clansmen will also continue to be poisoned by datura flowers. Although Chopper said that he would create an antidote for them, it seems that the treatment is easy. After all, he has Katsuyu, but he wants to develop an antidote directly. After so many days, he still has no progress, but it is good now, because they have found a solution. On the second day, under the witness of the tribe, the two chiefs came to the stone tablet, and then dropped their blood on the stone tablet. Then, a miraculous scene happened. The huge stone tablet suddenly flashed with light, and soon, a golden halo began to slowly spread out from the stone tablet until it spread over the entire island. And the flowers that have plagued the mandala of the two tribes for decades also completely dissipated at this moment. The clansmen who saw this scene were very excited, it was too important for them, these evil flowers from hell were finally purified. In their view, the Straw Hat crew was sent by God to save them. After all, after Straw Hat crew came to this island, everything changed for the better. Even the two tribes that have been fighting for decades have now merged into one tribe, which is really important to both of them. Today, Bai Yu and Robin came to the dwarf manufacturing workshop again, because today is the day to take the knife. The forging leader had informed them yesterday that Bai Yu's knife has been polished for the last time, and it can be done today. Get. Bai Yu has been looking forward to it for a long time today. After all, he has been waiting for this thing for a long time. Right now, he doesn't have a weapon yet. To be honest, looking at Zoro's 3 knives every day, he is very discouraged. After all, a man is handsome if he has a saber. Of course, to be able to match his knife, it must be the best of the best. In the workshop, the leader was still busy and seemed to be doing something. After hearing someone report Bai Yu and the others, they also asked them to wait outside for a while. He still has something in his hand, and he is doing the final polishing. He is wholeheartedly devoted to casting, and he will not give up until perfection is achieved. This wait is more than 2 hours. Of course, Bai Yu is not in a hurry. After all, he has waited for so many days, and these hours are nothing. The sky was getting darker and the moon was already high. Igra finally came out of his private manufacturing workshop, and although the thing he was holding was wrapped in black cloth at this time, he also knew that it must be his treasured sword. It can be seen that Igra is very satisfied with this weapon. At this time, he has a smile on his face, but his hand is holding the knife steadily, yes, holding it, like a tribute. Seeing this, Bai Yu looked forward to the weapon in front of him even more. This is the most successful and proud work of my life. Igra looked at the weapon at this time, and then glanced at Bai Yu again. But I think he is worthy of you. Igra said with a serious face at this time, obviously he was serious when he said this. Although he has been making this weapon these days, he has also heard about things outside. After all, such a big movement, he wondered if the people around him would tell him, but the name he heard the most these days was Bai Yu. The heroes and benefactors of this tribe not only saved the dwarves, but also brought the giants and dwarves back together. Whether it is character or strength, Bai Yu is completely worthy of this weapon. Quote. You deserve this weapon. Edgar put the weapon on the table at this time. This light release, Bai Yu can clearly feel that the surrounding air seems to have become cold. This is not an illusion, this is a reality. Bai Yu, this is your weapon, take off its veil. Igri looked at Bai Yu and said. Bai Yu raised his hand and walked towards the cloth. And every time the hand gets closer to the blade, the coldness becomes more pressing. Gently untied the black cloth covering the knife, a weapon in the shape of a tachi came into view. The blade was as white as snow, and when one looked closely, there were traces of cold air wafting from the blade. The black ink-like handle makes the temperament of this knife very calm. Bai Yu's hand touched it lightly, and it was as if something sharp had slashed his hands, and blood dripped from his hands. Seeing this scene, Robin Nuo Qian Zhao was stunned. She clearly didn't see Bai Yu touching the knife, let alone the blade, so why would there be a wound on her hand? But Bai Yu didn't care at this time. The bleeding hand was even more excited at this time, because the moment his drop of blood fell on the blade, his heart had a trace of connection with the blade. Once this knife recognizes the master, it will not change. The person is the knife. Igra explained at this time. Good. Let's call it a name. Igra said with a smile. Seeing Bai Yu's satisfaction, he was also very happy. After all, this is his most outstanding work. I'm afraid he won't be able to make a second one in his lifetime. Bai Yu thought for a while. Let's call him Bing Kanzu. When Bai Yu said the name, he obviously reacted to the knife, and suddenly the lights in the manufacturing workshop went out, and the Conshui knife body suddenly radiated light. The light was very dazzling, waiting for the slightest chill. Seems like it's happy to get this name in general. Chapter 369 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 370. Farewell. Bai Yu held Conshui in his hand, and the blade was still trembling. There is also a buzzing sound from time to time. It seems that he recognizes you as a master very much. Egri, who had been watching the whole time, touched his beard and said with a smile. Well, I'm also very satisfied with this weapon. It can be seen that it is a peerless knife. Bai Yu gestured back and forth with the knife in the air. Every time it swiped in the air, it would leave a snow-white crease, which disappeared after a while. Wow, this weapon looks so good, I can feel it contains a huge amount of energy. At this time, Wentini stood directly on Bai Yu's shoulders and observed the weapon up close. Its perception ability is much stronger than that of ordinary people, so it can better perceive the power of this weapon. It can be seen that it recognizes you as the master very much. Since it has already recognized the master with blood, then I am relieved. After saying this, Edgar walked into his workshop again. A scabbard-like thing was taken out of it. That thing looks very simple, but it can feel like Kanzu, it contains power. This is a scabbard that I made by smelting seastone and black iron. Only this scabbard is worthy of 987 residual snow. Igra handed the scabbard to Bai Yu. Take the scabbard. Bai Yu felt a heat slowly coming towards his body from the scabbard. That heat is somewhat similar to Kanzu's cold feeling, but his heat is warm. Bai Yu felt that the scabbard seemed to have some kind of connection with Conshui when he got it, and he could feel that the violent Conshui calmed down the first time the scabbard appeared. When Conshui was put into the scabbard, the shining light just now disappeared, and the lights came on again. Very good, I'm very satisfied, Master. I gave you my Zontai to make me, and I didn't see the wrong person. I'm afraid there is no one in this world whose manufacturing ability can match yours. What Bai Yu said were all from his heart. After all, Kan Shui's truth has exceeded his expectations. He also borrowed Zoro's weapons to play, but compared with the current Kan Shui, to be honest, that is still a few grades off. Although they were all famous swords, they were not worth mentioning in front of Kan Shui. Holding the knife in his hand, Bai Yu felt very good at this time, and now he is like a real warrior. It feels very cool. Haha, having a good knife is the romance a man should have. After a few people and eager thanked a wave, they left the manufacturing workshop. Needless to say, this manufacturing workshop is really not ordinary. Chopper's first feeling is that he is about to be cooked. I don't know how these dwarves can stand it. Maybe it's a natural gene reason. Next, what should I do? Robin looked at Bai Yu and said after walking out of the workshop. We may have to go back to East Blue. One is to find Zephyr, and the other is to meet with Luffy and the others. Bai Yu said with a knife in his right hand, while stroking Robin's hair with his left. At this time, Chopper and Bindini, who were beside them, couldn't stand it anymore. Hey, there are still people here, you can't be like this, I'm going to be blind. At this time, Chopper closed his eyes and saw Chopper's pose. Bindini also made the same pose as Chopper. And Bai Yu doesn't care about their life or death. Anyway, they haven't eaten at night, so it's better to give them dog food first. Day 2. Today is the day when Bai Yu is ready to leave. It has been a while since he came to Giant Island, and he found the stone tablet. Although it is not what they wanted, Bai Yu is not bad for him. Good news for him. I saw that Zoro would be cool with 3 knives that day, so he wanted to get one for a long time, but he didn't like ordinary knives, but now he has remnant snow. Hehe, after meeting with Luffy and the others, I will BCAA, let Zoro see my Kanzu, that guy will definitely be envious. Bai Yu thought so in his heart, and walked out with Robin and others. Dwarves. The dwarves at this time are very different from before. Now there are no mandala flowers outside the clan, and the clansmen are building various facilities. Building this aspect is the strength of the dwarves. And behind them were the chiefs of the giants, the chiefs of the dwarves, and a group of clansmen. To Bai Yu's surprise, since all the old guys from Igri are here this time, he knows that Igri is the kind of person who has to stay in the manufacturing workshop when the sky falls. It can be seen that he looks at himself very much. Middle. Everyone, go back, I believe we still have a chance to meet again. At this time, Ace is also saying goodbye to Limia. After all, he is now a member of the pirates, and he will not stay with you forever on this giant island, but now he has someone he cares about. Says it's a good start. Mother, I have to go, but I will come back as soon as I get a chance. Big man pay attention to his body. Ace followed several people to say goodbye. Bai Yu glanced at the people who came to see him off. Since he didn't see Lilim, it was a surprise to him. After all, they had a good relationship with Lilim. Since this girl won't come to see us, really. Bai Yu is not angry, but he still has to complain. Ace will also be saying goodbye to other people at this meeting. To put it bluntly, these are considered half of his clan. Although he has only recognized his relatives for more than a month, blood is thicker than water. Just when everyone said goodbye and was about to leave, suddenly there were shouts from behind the 2 clansmen. Wait for me. When Bai Yu heard this voice, he knew who it was. This girl is still here. Lilim rushed out of the crowd. Just looking at her outfit, Bai Yu felt something was wrong. This girl doesn't seem to be as simple as seeing off, doesn't it? Before Bai Yu could speak, Lilim had already arrived at the Shang underground in front of Limia. Dear Chief, please allow me Bai Yu to go on an adventure with them, you know this is my childhood dream. The good guys are as expected by Bai Yu, this girl wants to rely on them. Are you really going? It's not as good as on this island. Although the outside world is colorful, it is also full of crises. The female chief looked at Lilim and said with a serious look. I have already thought about it, Mr. Chief. Now the 2 clans are in harmony, and the 2 clans will definitely be more harmonious in the future. I don't have to worry about the safety of my mother and the clansmen. Please let my brother and I go out on an adventure. Lilim's eyes were now filled with tears. This is the first time she has asked her mother. Chapter 370 Auto-generated chapter title. How to get a job with free visa sponsorship. Learn more. 371. Ability of new members. The female chief looked at Lilim at this time, and in addition to tears, she also saw desire and determination. Well, when the child is older, he should have his own thoughts. Go ahead and pursue what you want, but remember to come back often. After listening to the female chief's words, Lilim couldn't restrain her emotions any longer. She got up and threw herself on Limia's body, and burst into tears. I will, mother, and come back when the adventure is over. Go. This island will go on forever. As long as I am here, no one can hurt your mother and the dwarves. The one who spoke was the chief of the giant clan. He looked at the mother and daughter like this, and his heart was also warm. After all, this is his own niece. You know, after the misunderstanding is resolved, they are the closest people. In fact, Rickham still feels very guilty about Lilim. After all, I thought he was Roger's daughter before, and I wanted to deal with it. Now I think he is really a bastard, but now the misunderstanding is resolved, and Rickham has got everyone. Forgiveness. Uncle, I will definitely come back to see you often, pay attention to your body. After saying this, Lilim knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the two of them a few times. Ace, who saw this scene, was also with Lilim, knocked a few heads. Alright, let's all get up. Mia and Rickham were very happy at this time, seeing that their juniors have grown up, not bad. At this time, the female chief came to Bai Yu, grabbed Bai Yu's hand with both hands and said, Bai Yu, you are the benefactor of our dwarf clan. It is you who solved the misunderstanding between us and the giant clan for many years. I know how to thank you, so please accept me. As soon as the words fell, Limia was about to kneel down, and no one around her stopped to stop it. After all, they all knew that what the female chief said was the truth, and Rickham did the same thing as his sister at this time. Kneeling action. But who is Bai Yu? He doesn't like this set. The two chiefs don't have to do this. I just did what I could do myself, and Ace has always been our good partner, good brother, and helping you is also what we should do. Saying that, Bai Yu waved his hand, and a gust of wind lifted the knees of the two of them slightly, and then stood up. Okay, Bai Yu, you are the benefactor of our two clans. Our two clans will never forget this kindness. The giant clan and the dwarf clan will listen to your mobilization at any time. Rickham said this with serious eyes and an air of arrogance. It was for Bai Yu, and it was also for the clansmen behind them. Thanks a lot then. Bai Yu cupped his fists. After doing all this, several people turned their heads towards the ships that the dwarves had prepared for them. After all, the craftsmen of the dwarves are very good, such things as boats, as long as they want, it is very simple to build. Looking at the brand new ship, it was about the same size as the Sunny, and it looked a little familiar, except that the head was no longer a lion's head, but a tiger's head. Bai Yu is quite satisfied with this change. It seems that these craftsmen have a heart, and they must have used the Sunny as a reference, so there is no problem at all. At this time, Lilim and Ace were still waving goodbye to their clansmen. Don't worry, come on, sister, we'll come back to see them often. Ace patted Lilim on the shoulder and said. He actually quite liked his own sister who came out suddenly, she was sensible and obedient. But Bai Yu has something on his mind now. Why didn't that annoying ghost come out to say goodbye to him? Did she go back to be her night demon again? Did I talk too hard before, and she hates me a little bit? Bai Yu was thinking about Wendini now. During this period of time, although he said he disliked Wendini on the surface, he actually liked that little elf in his heart. But now it seems that there will be very few opportunities to meet again in the future, since Bai Yu is still a little lost when he thinks of it. What's wrong with me? How can I feel lost to that little rascal? Bai Yu shook his head and walked towards the boat. Several people got on the boat under the eyes of the two ethnic groups. Since the boat is fully automatic and has an advanced compass to observe the direction, it looks very advanced. Hey, you guys are here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. I said goodbye to them long before you got up. You guys are so slow. Wendini flew out of the cabin at this time. Bai Yu's heart was filled with joy when he saw such a little guy come out of the cabin. For flowers oh. Of course, he wouldn't show it directly. Said now, why did you get on the boat? Did I allow you to come with us? Bai Yu looked at Wendini with a serious look on purpose. When Wendini was seen like this, the aggrieved people were about to cry, but she came to the boat early, and she cleaned the boat aside, just for fear that Bai Yu would not take her with her. She has been on this island for many years, and she doesn't even know why she ended up on this island, and why she stayed here for so many years. But this time, she told him in her heart that it was the best choice to leave this island with the man in front of her. So she did it. But looking at Bai Yu's expression now, it seems that he doesn't really want her to go together. Alright, then I'll leave. After speaking, Wendini flew towards the shore in a grievance, and the pair of small wings were all gone by now. See Wendini like this. Bai Yu sighed. Okay, take you out to sea, and watch you die. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Wendini, who was originally weak, suddenly regained her spirits, and the little wings came back, fluttering onto Bai Yu's shoulders. I knew you didn't want me to leave, hee. Seeing Wendini like this, Bai Yu was speechless, but Bai Yu was actually very happy inside. At this moment, the sound of the system suddenly sounded. Detected. 2 new members have been added to the host pirates. Get the power of the elf and the casting talent respectively. Bai Yu was not surprised to hear this broadcast from the system. After all, these 2 guys are new members of the pirates, and the system should also give feedback. Skill introduction. Spiritual power. Allows allies and yourself to gain invisibility. The effect lasts for 5 minutes, and will be automatically removed when a battle occurs. Casting talent. The exclusive talent of the dwarves. After obtaining it, the casting ability will be greatly improved. Bai Yu is very happy to see these 2 skills. After all, he has a lot of attack methods, basically enough, but such functional skills are still very few. These 2 skills are very important to the current for him, it's still pretty good. 0. Chapter 371 Auto-generated chapter title. Inspire. What is the most important thing for a woman in a man? 372. Set sail. New target. Wendini, come here. Bai Yu said as he looked at Wendini, who was patrolling the boat at this time. What's the matter? I didn't do anything bad. The elf fluttered his little wings, and those big watery eyes looked extra cute. I didn't say you made a mistake, I'm teaching you a skill now, do you want to learn it? Bai Yu looked at Wendini and said. At this moment, Wendini tilted her head and looked at Bai Yu suspiciously. What skill? As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yu placed his hand on the little guy's forehead, and then a green light from Bai Yu's fingers slowly directed towards Wendini's eyebrows. Robin is naturally familiar with what Chu Feng is doing, and now he is sitting on the deck with a glass of wine. The sun is good today, suitable for sunbathing. And Chopper will be playing 987 with his cutie. As for Ace and Lilim, they are probably chatting in the cabin. After all, although they are brothers and sisters, they have only known each other for more than a month. There must be more to say. 10 minutes later, Bai Yu put down his finger, and the original green light disappeared. Wow, I seem to have learned some incredible skills. Wendini will be a little happy, she can't wait to show it. I saw her flying into the air, and then chanting some incantation, she came down and disappeared in front of Bai Yu. This surprised Chopper too, he just looked up at Bai Yu, and Bai Yu disappeared out of thin air, which frightened him, and immediately jumped up, ran to Robin's side, and hugged Robin's arm. Hey, Chopper, don't be afraid, this is my magic noise, I've made Bai Yu invisible. At this time, Bai Yu was still standing there. He slowly walked to Robin's side, and then kissed Robin's lips. This sudden feeling also surprised Robin. But then, Chu Feng lifted the stealth effect by himself. When Robin saw that it was Bai Yu, the pretty face immediately turned red. Chu Feng smiled slightly, and the soft wind blew Robin's hair. When Robin touched it with his hand, the picture was perfect. Cough cough. Bai Yu felt a little embarrassed when he saw this scene. He didn't know why he acted like that just now, but he could see that Robin didn't hate it, but rather liked it. Yeah, don't show your affection, isn't my magic powerful? Wendini said while looking at the crowd. Wow, it's amazing, since it can make people invisible, it's a magical skill. Chopper's eyes widened at this time. It was like seeing a miracle. This skill is indeed a magical skill for him, but he estimates that Usopp may like it better. You know, if this skill is used well, it can play a miraculous effect on the battlefield, and the timid can also use stealth to run away, it is both offensive and defensive. The next step is to find Lilim. You must know that Lilim is a dwarf, and her construction ability must be very high. If this talent comes, I am afraid that she will take off. Bai Yu is thinking now, I don't know if this little girl's accomplishments can surpass that old man with the help of this talent. Thinking of this, Bai Yu was a little excited. Isn't she carrying a manufacturing master with her, and when the time comes, let him learn high-tech with Franky, her talent is estimated to be a complete master soon. Thinking of this, Bai Yu was already a little excited. Right now, he walked directly into the cabin. Sure enough, Ace was still talking to his sister Lilim at this time, and it could be seen that both of them were in a good mood. You don't know, your brother and I almost died before, but thanks to Bai Yu for saving me, or you would never see you in this life. Ace would really brag with his sister. He also smiled when he saw Bai Yu coming in. I didn't bother you, Bai Yu said to the two of them. Haha, no, we are just chatting normally, you must have something to do when you come in. Ace looked at Bai Yu and said. Hee, I'm going to teach your sister something. Bai Yu looked at Ace playfully. At this time, Lilim also showed the same expression as Wendini before. She was very confused about what Bai Yu would give her. She didn't know anything about combat, and she had never been trained in this area since she was a child. Seeing Lilim's concern, Bai Yu smiled and said, don't worry, you can definitely learn. We go out and talk. Bai Yu said and walked ahead. Behind Aces and Lilim also came out. Then Bai Yu stood in front of Lilim, and then it was the same as Wendini, but this time it was not green but a khaki light. Another 10 minutes passed. At this time, everyone is looking forward to it. After all, they have seen Wendini's skills just now. It's great. What kind of skills will Lilim be now? Soon, the light disappeared. Lilim felt that her brain was extremely clear at this time, and some casting techniques that he did not understand in the tribe were fully understood at this moment, and some ideas in how to make some items kept popping up in her mind. I feel like Lilim wants to say something, but I don't seem to know how to say it, because she doesn't know what it is, but she knows how to do it. Go for it, Bai Yu said looking at Lilim. Of course, he knew what Lilim had in mind at this time, and he also had the blueprints in his mind, but he didn't think he could make them. After saying these words, Lilim followed like a demon, ran into the cabin and started fiddling with something. Before leaving, Lilim also brought a lot of tools. After all, she is a dwarf, so these tools are the ones she eats. Originally, she also planned to help everyone repair things and make equipment after getting on the ship. After all, she doesn't have any combat skills, and all she can do is 0.0, and she can't go out to sea with others, what else? Don't do it. Although she is beautiful, she can't just be a vase, but she knows that a beautiful woman like Robin Nami has her own job to do on the boat. At this time, Ace was very puzzled. Bai Yu looked at Ace and said, don't worry, your sister's casting talent is amazing. In the future, we pirates will probably have a casting master. Bai Yu looked at the sky in the distance and said. Now he is realizing his plan step by step, and the current Straw Hat Pirates, in his opinion, is strong enough, and it is time to make the next plan. At this moment, Ace looked at Bai Yu with a knife in one hand and looked into the distance. For some reason, he felt that the man in front of him seemed to look more like a leader than his father Whitebeard, a real leader. Chapter 372 Auto-generated chapter title. Safe enjoy. How to get a job with free visa sponsorship. Get a job with free visa sponsorship. What is your dream job? 373. Pirate inventor Lilim. The ship sailed on the sea for several days. Because the goal was clear, the speed was much faster. In addition to the ships made by the dwarves, it was really different, and the power was very strong. In the past few days, Lilim has not been idle, she has remodeled almost everything on the entire ship. Even the bathrooms and other places have been renovated by her, ranging from ship decoration to small bottles and jars. Get up every day and stay in your casting room. That room was also deliberately arranged for her by Bai Yu, it was her private space, and it was made for her to fiddle with. Bai Yu is very optimistic about this little girl. Some new things are being made by her. She is now an inventor rather than a manufacturer. Others have become her guinea pigs, and no matter what they invent, they will try it out for the crew. Chopper and Ventini are the most fun. No, here it is again. Lilim rushed out of the cabin excitedly, and then held what looked like a button above her head. Everyone, come and see, my latest invention. However, everyone has become accustomed to Lilim's behavior in the past few days. After all, this little inventor really has something in his head, and every time he takes it out, it does have an effect, so everyone will be curious every time. Of onlookers. Of course, the first to come is always Windini, followed by Chopper. These two goods are really cheering. What's wrong? What's wrong, Lilim, have you invented something fun again? Chopper yelled as he ran. Seeing that everyone was so enthusiastic, Lilim was even happier. She never thought that after joining the pirates, she could become so powerful. Of course all this is due to Bai Yu, she knows very well that Bai Yu gave her this ability. Hey, this is not a fun thing, I'm going to call it a water-avoiding armor. After speaking, Lilim put the button-like little thing in front of him, and then the water-avoiding armor began to unfold slowly, covering the whole process. At this time, Lilim's body seemed to be coated with a thin film. After completing the demonstration, Lilim came to the bow by herself, and jumped into the sea with a jump. Bai Yu, who was originally standing on the bow, was stunned when he saw this scene. Damn it, what's the situation? This is going to commit suicide, don't think about it. When she was about to catch Lilim, Lilim had already jumped off. Ace was even more startled, this is the sea, and falling into the sea is completely useless for a fruit person like him. In the next second, something miraculous happened. Since Lilim, who had just jumped off, floated directly and was able to move freely in the water, the seawater beside his body also softened. Haha, don't worry everyone, I'm just showing everyone my invention. At this time, Lilim was obviously satisfied that her invention brought such a surprise to everyone. But the next second, she couldn't laugh because she didn't know how to get up. Brother Ace, quickly pull me up, I can't get up. How calm 1 second, how panic the next. She completely forgot that she didn't have any combat skills, except that she was a little stronger than the average person, and now she was more than 10 meters away from the ship. After Ace heard Lilim calling, he also threw down a ladder, and Lilim got on the boat safely. Hoo-hoo, scared me to death, forget that I can't fly, hee-hee. Lilim smiled a little embarrassedly. But Bai Yu was very interested in Lilim's invention. You know, in this world, those who own devil fruit are undoubtedly characters who can stand on their own, but what is their biggest flaw? Yes, one is seastone and the other is seawater. But now it seems that the people on the boat are no longer afraid of seawater. Isn't this an artifact? Bai Yu thought so, and glanced at Chopper, who was looking at Lilim curiously at this moment, and showed a strange smile. Wow, this thing, is it so powerful, is it really not afraid of seawater? Chopper was very curious. Lilim, you put the waterproof armor on Chopper and try it on. Bai Yu looked at the two and said. When Chopper heard Bai Yu say this, he was so excited that he wanted to try it for a long time. Chopper, you just put this on your body and click to generate it automatically. Following Lilim's method, Chopper pressed it, and sure enough, the same protective film as before Lilim appeared. In the next second, Chopper was lifted from behind by the torrential rain. Then it was thrown directly into the sea. Yeah, this sudden change frightened Chopper a lot. Since he ate devil fruit, he has never touched seawater. He knows how terrifying seawater is to demon fruit's power. But what's the situation now? Puff. In the distance, Chopper had already fallen into the water, but 1 second later, Chopper, like Lilim before, first floated on the seawater, and the next second Chopper stood up. However, this is not what Bai Yu wants to see. The reason why he did it is to see demon fruit power, whether the seawater will take away devil fruit's power after this water-repellent armor on the ship. Chopper, use your human fruit ability to see. Bai Yu shouted loudly. With such a loud voice, Chopper naturally heard it. 987. Jump enhancement. In fact, when using the fruit ability, Chopper is still very worried, after all, he has never used his ability in seawater. But the next second he was relieved, because his legs began to change, which was what happened after he used the ability, that is to say, the seawater did not limit his devil fruit ability. Chopper jumped himself onto the cleat of the boat. This also confirms Bai Yu's conjecture that this invention can really ignore the negative effects of seawater, which is too practical for demon fruit power. Wow, I really came up, since the sea didn't deprive me of my ability. Chopper would be so happy, jumping up and down. Seeing that her invention is useful to everyone, Lilim is even more convinced that she is going in the right direction, and that she can help the pirate group in this direction. She also wants to be the one and only one on the ship, so that she can reflect her value. Lilim, your invention is really great. It can be said that with this, our pirate group can walk sideways at sea. Ace touched Lilim's head at this time and said, for his sister, he is proud. Very good, Lilim, your invention is very useful. Keep working hard. As for your invention site, this ship will be your invention ship in the future. You can use all kinds of things here. Chapter 373 Auto-generated chapter title. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Learn more. 374. Marine Tech Undersea Prison. For Lilim, all she needs now is the venue, and of course the bigger the venue, the better, which is more suitable for her to play. As for materials, you don't have to worry, tell me what you need, and I will find a way to get it for you. There is only one thing you need to do, and that is scientific research. Bai Yu said. He knew that there was a scientist in Marine, who seemed to be called Vegapunk. The Peacekeeper and the Blonde Five Elders seem to have been created by him, and he is actually more interested in this scientist than the Five Elders. The capabilities of those modern technologies are no joke. The large-scale lethality, even in this era of devil fruit rampant, can be eaten. And there is also the artificial devil fruit. Bai Yu is very interested, but he is not in a hurry, because Lilim, who has awakened his racial talent, will be his biggest killer in the field of technology. He doesn't think Lilim not as good as that Vegapunk. All Lilim needs now is time, and what he can give is all the materials Lilim wants in terms of invention. He has this ability. Today's event made Bai Yu more confident. Robin, who was lying on the deck sunbathing, also noticed Lilim's invention at this time. In fact, there was a sentence recorded on the stone tablet before, but he didn't tell Bai Yu. That is, those who are assisted by the two races will conquer the world. When I first saw this sentence, Robin was actually a little skeptical. After all, these things have a long history, but the things invented by Lilim today are too important for this era of great pirates, is more important for their demon fruit power. At this time, Robin's eyes unconsciously turned to Bai Yu. Isn't the man in front of him the person mentioned on the stone tablet, and Lilim is the person from the two races? Maybe his man can really surpass 10,000 people and conquer the world. Robin believes that the man in front of him can do it. After a few more days, the ship finally reached East Blue. East Blue Windmill Village. A prominent ship appeared in front of Bai Yu. The ship they were familiar with, the Sunny. Bai Yu guessed that Luffy and the others must be here. After all, this is Luffy's hometown. When he comes back to East Blue Luffy, he will definitely visit Curly Dayton. Luffy was worried about Curly Dayton's safety before, after all, they were all arrested by the Marine Vice Admiral. But when they entered the Windmill Village, the village was empty, and there were no residents on the streets. This makes Bai Yu very strange. It stands to reason that there should be a lot of people at this time. At the same time, Chopper was also excited to get on the Sunny. Sure enough, as Bai Yu guessed, there was no one on the Sunny. Luffy, where did they go? But they shouldn't get far with the Sunny here, Chopper said, looking at the Sunny. I'm afraid things are not as simple as we thought, Bai Yu said, looking at the empty street. At this time, a figure appeared in front of everyone. A small child, looking about 10 years old. But she knew Bai Yu. Brother Bai Yu, you are finally here. After confirming that it was Bai Yu, the little girl rushed out. Little is the original name of the Windmill Village. Before Bai Yu and Luffy went to sea, they had contact with each other. Compared with the previous girl, except that the girl grew up a little, the appearance has not changed much, so Bai Yu is the first time recognized it. Why are you here alone, the villagers? And Luffy, they should have been here before. Bai Yu looked at Xiaobing and said. The villagers were taken away by Marine. As for brother Luffy and the others, they should be in the village now. After speaking, Xiaobing couldn't hold back her inner emotions and burst into tears. All her relatives and family members were all arrested, and she was also deliberately hidden by the village names, so she escaped. Okay, don't cry anymore. You, brother Bai Yu and me, will definitely help you save all the villagers, don't worry, I promise you. After speaking, he made a pull hook gesture with the little girl. Seeing Bai Yu's confident face, Xiaomu was no longer crying. Okay, I believe brother Bai Yu, let's go, I'll take you to brother Luffy and the others. It turned out that it was Luffy and the others who stayed here to meet Bai Yu. A few people crossed the street and came to a bar at the back. Bai Yu was very familiar with it. Before they went to sea, they drank a lot here, but compared to the liveliness before, now they are the only ones left here, Straw Hat Crew. Luffy was very happy to see someone coming. Jumped straight up. Bai Yu, you are finally here, we have encountered a lot of difficulties. Luffy said, and the watch pulled Bai Yu to the table. At this time, there was a map on the table. This map Bai Yu knew. East Blue's map, with a place circled in red. At this time, Nami came out, and after welcoming everyone back, his face became serious. They are now facing a big problem. That is, the residents of East Blue are all imprisoned. Yes, almost all the residents of East Blue. World government was not joking, they did imprison all East Blue residents. And a new type of prison was built for it. Surprisingly, the world government seems to have begun to set up a long time ago, and this prison did not appear out of thin air. It is said that it came from the hands of Vegapunk, a marine scientist. I have asked Jinbei and the others to explore this prison before. It is surrounded by sea stone, and it is located deep under the sea. It seems that there are all kinds of high-tech fortifications. Ornaments that can be built overnight. Quote. The strangest thing is that there are sea kings guarding around the prison, Nuoxianjiao. These sea kings seem to be different from other sea kings. They are very violent, and the power enters, even Jinbei is difficult to approach. Hearing this, Bai Yu was very surprised. You must know that Jinbei is a murloc. It should be his battlefield at the bottom of the sea. I didn't expect that since he even ate him this time, it also means that the situation this time is very difficult. The internal situation, we do not know yet, but it is certain that all the residents of East Blue are imprisoned there, and the world government seems to intend to use them to coerce us. Nami analyzed at this time. After hearing everyone's explanation, Bai Yu already understood the ins and outs of the matter. It seems that this underwater prison is a technological product of the world government. In this case, I am afraid it will not be so easy to break through. You know, in the bottom of the sea, the fruit ability is useless, and there are sea kings guarding it, which is even more difficult. Chapter 374 Auto-generated chapter title. Jetski Just. Top sponsored Canada visa for international students. Do you need a visa to study abroad? 375. Bai Yu's plan. Hearing the word Sea Kings, Bai Yu's first thought was Shirahoshi. You know, Shirahoshi can control the Sea Kings, but I don't know if there is any difference between the Sea Kings on the bottom of the sea and ordinary Sea Kings, and whether Shirahoshi can control them. Of course, they have phone bugs. In short, let Shirahoshi come to East Blue first. Even if you can't control the Sea Kings, Shirahoshi is a very powerful help in the seabed. At the same time, Bai Yu also thought of a problem. Previously, it was only said that Shirahoshi did not get on the boat, that is, because her body was too huge, there was no way. In fact, Bai Yu really hopes that Shirahoshi can get on board. After all, she is such a beautiful woman and her fiancé. It is not nice to have Robin and Shirahoshi at the same time. But although there was no way back then, but now they have Lilim, she believes Lilim has this ability. Now, they must start working on a plan to rescue the residents of East Blue. Every night, the residents of East Blue are more dangerous. Bai Yu does not want these innocent people to be harmed. After all, East Blue is also his hometown. After the phone worm got through, Bai Yu told the ins and outs of the matter like a Murloc king. Shirahoshi was also very happy to come to East Blue and meet Bai Yu. He immediately agreed and he could leave. On Bai Yu's side, he came to Lilim 987 and Chopper. I need you to research one thing for me now, a drug that can make Shirahoshi smaller. In fact, Bai Yu had the idea long ago, but there were no conditions at that time, but now he thinks the time is ripe. He doesn't know if the two can succeed, but it is always necessary to try. If it can be done, it will be of great benefit to both Shirahoshi and the pirates. We can give it a try, Lilim said. In fact, she seemed to have this knowledge in her mind long ago, that is, after Bai Yu passed it on to her, but she never had the time. After all, it looked troublesome and required knowledge of drugs. But now with Chopper as her helper, that's all different. Very good. I hope you can bring me good news as soon as possible. After explaining this, Chopper and Lilim returned to their research room. Bai Yu and the others began to discuss the next countermeasures. First, the exact location of the prison below must be determined, and the second is what kind of traps there are outside. After some discussion, Bai Yu took out what Lilim had made before, the water-avoiding armor. I really didn't expect that this little thing invented by Lilim would have room to be used so quickly. Next, Bai Yu directly waited for Jinbei and Zoro to drive the boat to the entrance of the underwater prison. Luffy and others have already figured out this place before, so they are just familiar with it now. It looks like an island, but under the island is the entrance to the underwater prison. It's just an observation station. In the middle of the night, Bai Yu stayed with Wendini and sneaked in. The reason why he took Wendini was actually because of his ability. The ability to be invisible is particularly important in this kind of secret invasion. This is also the reason why Bai Yu wants to come in alone at night. To put it bluntly, the less people there are, the harder it is to reveal, and he believes that with his skills, no one can discover his invisible self. When he logged onto the island, to Bai Yu's surprise, it was much more empty than it looked, and there was no marine at first glance on the island, but all kinds of devices that looked like robots. Sure enough, it's the technology unit. Seeing this, Bai Yu can basically confirm that what is stationed here is the last card of the world government, the science and technology troops. The strange thing is that since the entrance of the fortress is wrapped by seawater, the seawater seems to be spewing upwards from the bottom of the sea. Covers the entire fort. Only then did Bai Yu understand that why Luffy and the others couldn't pass here. It turned out to be the reason for the seawater, and the outer building material of the fort was impressively seastone. These world governments really have brains, and they are completely aimed at those who have the ability to achieve fruit. But for Bai Yu, these are simply useless. But now is not the time for him to start, and then we have to see what the situation of the outer prison at the bottom of the sea is. Bai Yu turned on the water avoidance armor, and with the help of Wendini's ability, he dived directly. As soon as he entered the bottom of the sea, Bai Yu found densely packed sea kings. The number of sea kings was extremely large. At this time, they all inhabited the bottom of the sea. It seemed that they felt Bai Yu's breath, and those sea kings started to stir. A glowing tube was inserted behind them. Bai Yu speculates that this thing may be the tool to control these sea kings. When the time comes to destroy these pipes, perhaps the sea kings will no longer obey the world government. Of course, all of this will have to wait until Shirahoshi arrives. They don't have the ability to communicate with the sea kings, even if Bai Yu can handle the pipes now. But after the device is destroyed, such a large number of sea kings will definitely run wild, and I am afraid it will be difficult to clean up at that time. So we have to wait for Shirahoshi. After continuing to dive around the sea kings on the first floor, there is a dark area below. If Bai Yu didn't have a blood wheel eye, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to see anything here. Bai Yu feels that it seems unlikely that this prison wants to enter the outside of the sea. After all, except for him, I am afraid that no one can have any ability to move here. Maybe the Murlocs have this ability, but the Murlocs must not be able to break through the first layer. Sea Kings. It seems that the world government does have brains. Bai Yu, seeing this, has already begun to sigh that there are indeed people with brains in the world government. This person Bai Yu is estimated to be the scientist Vegapunk. At this time, Bai Yu has begun to look forward to a head-to-head confrontation with Vegapunk, even though Vegapunk came last time on Giant Island, but he didn't shoot. This was also where Bai Yu was puzzled. The old man seemed unfathomable. The information that can be detected so far Bai Yu has mastered, and the next step is to wait for the arrival of Shirahoshi. And when Bai Yu and the others returned to the windmill village, Sabo was also on the island. It turned out that the dragons also launched their own power after learning about East Blue, and their revolutionary army has now infiltrated into Marine. They have obtained very important information, that is, there has been a voice of resistance within the Marine of East Blue. They are very dissatisfied with what the 5 Elders Celestial Dragons did this time. After all, they are all from East Blue. Since they have imprisoned all the residents of East Blue this time, it is obviously contrary to their original purpose of joining Marine to defend their homeland. Chapter 375 Auto-generated chapter title. 376. The Murloc reinforcement arrives. And the revolutionary army took advantage of them, including Luffy's grandfather Garp. Although Garp was not in East Blue at this time, he naturally knew of such a big decision, and he also found the current Marine Marshal Chingshong theory. But unfortunately, the current Aokiji has been reduced to a pawn, and he has no right to interfere with these things. The order for this matter was given by the 5 elders, who was merely an executor. Garp, who understands all this, is completely disappointed with the current Marine. This is not the Marine he knew before, the Marine who is the master of the people. The power of celestial dragons is getting bigger and bigger, and the corruption of the world government has also made this Marine no longer look like it used to be. Maybe it's time to leave. However, Garp's actions naturally couldn't escape the eyes of the Crane. As Marine's former chief staff officer, now he has no real power, and Marine's current actions have completely subverted Marine's justice. East Blue time was the straw that broke the camel's back, and with the departure of 2 respected Marine generals from Marine headquarters, major turmoil within Marine followed. These are what the Revolutionary Army wanted to see. Long felt an unprecedented opportunity. He had waited for so many years and finally the opportunity came. This is the best chance to defeat the entire world government. Even his own father will not fight against him, so what can stop them from the Revolutionary Army? As for Bai Yu's side, of course, the primary purpose now is to get the residents of East Blue. If these people are not rescued one day, the world government will have a way to support them. Of course, the world government is not a fool. They have long known that this incident will cause controversy, so they have already deployed all East Blue troops before the operation, in order to prevent the Marine of East Blue from doing their operation this time. This time they dispatched all mechanical troops, which is why Bai Yu didn't see a single Marine in the previous exploration. Back Bai Yu's came to the bar, and this bar has now become their operational headquarters. The crew were also waiting for news from Bai Yu, who noted that the underwater prison was too mysterious for them. I'm back. Pushing open the door, Bai Yu walked in first, followed by Wendini and others. How's it going? Is there any new information? Luffy was a little emotional here, but Bai Yu can understand it completely. After all, the residents of East Blue have been imprisoned for some time, and he doesn't know the safety of those imprisoned hostages. Not safe. At this time, Bai Yu's face was serious. Preliminary estimates show that this prison is more difficult than we thought, and it may not be possible to break out of the siege. Not only are there Sea Kings around, but there is endless darkness under the Sea Kings. It seems that some device is interfering with the environment under the sea. At present, I haven't seen any shadow of Marine, and I haven't restrained whether there is Marine inside, but I speculate that there is a high probability that it is Marine's mechanical force. The island seems to have a special design. The demon fruit power entering the island will be affected by seawater and sea stone. Bai Yu explained what he knew and what he had guessed. After hearing Bai Yu's report, everyone's faces were not very good looking. You must know that most of them are demon fruit power, but these are also their main team members. If the fruit power people can't play their due role in this battle, then this battle will be very hard to beat. Looks like Marine is well prepared for this East Blue prison, Long said, looking at the combat map. Bai Yu's thinking at this time is that this action is probably only for those who have no fruit ability, and only in this way will those things that are set up will have a minimal impact on them. After sharing this idea with everyone thinks it is feasible. This is the only way at the moment. All they need to do is to wait outside with a large force. Bai Yu asks other people who are not able to enter the prison, and then opens the door of the prison from the inside. However, there must be a more thorough plan for this matter, and there are not many people who are not fruit ability people. Now it appears that there are Bai Yu, Zoro, Sanji, Sabo, Nami, Jinbei and Wentini. Of course, Wentini is not really a person. After all, she doesn't have any means of attack, and at most she can only be regarded as an assistant. Bai Yu was waiting for someone at this time, and he was waiting for Shirahoshi. Only when Shirahoshi comes, can they deal with the ferocious Sea Kings. For flowers 00. Bai Yu has seen those Sea Kings before, they all look very ferocious, and after being strengthened by technology, their abilities have been greatly improved. Under the sea, the world government may regard them as huge killers. Come on. A day later, Shirahoshi finally arrived. What he didn't expect was that since he brought a few people, they were the brave and good warriors of their murlocs. He has extensive experience in undersea warfare. This is a surprise for Bai Yu, after all, they currently have only one Jinbei in the murlocs. The arrival of these people can achieve a good cooperation with Jinbei on the seabed, which will be better for dealing with even the Sea Kings. Those glowing tubes were something Bai Yu was concerned about. If he guessed right, those were used to control the Sea Kings. But even if he is on the bottom of the sea, his actions will become slow, and it may not be easy to destroy those devices if you want to achieve the goal. But without destroying those, the large force would not be able to reach the intended location. The people Shirahoshi brought were a big help. However, Shirahoshi's body was still huge at this time, and he could only watch Bai Yu on the land from the port. When seeing Bai Yu for the first time, Shirahoshi's face was immediately covered with crimson. She hadn't seen Bai Yu for some time, and all her heart was thinking about this man. Unexpectedly, since she would receive an invitation from this man, she arrived as quickly as possible. At the same time, Lilim also ran from a distance, with joy on his face. Bai Yu saw Lilim like this, and he already knew in his heart that what he explained was probably already completed. After a while, Lilim came to Bai Yu and Shirahoshi. It was the first time she saw such a big mermaid. Although there were giants on Giant Island, such a beautiful and moving mermaid princess still moved her. Now she finally knew why Bai Yu asked them to take shrinking pills. Brother Bai, Chopper and I have already completed what you ordered, look. After speaking, Lilim put a thumb-sized pill in her pocket in the palm of her hand. The pills gleamed and looked very delicate. 0.